The Pirate Journey of Arceus. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 976 Frostbitten Ice. Garp, it's your family and your son's subordinates again. There's already one more Kaido here. If there's another dragon, then Sengoku will have to consider changing his strategic goals. If there are 4 emperors plus the revolutionary army, it will be very difficult for the navy to deal with it, especially when Garp doesn't want to help at all. Garp didn't sit still all the time. Just now, he punched Marco away, who wanted to rescue Ace. The captain of the 1st division was punched away by him, which encouraged the navy. However, as Garp's old partner, Sengoku knew very well how much force Garp used in that punch. Rather than saying that Garp's punch was to make Marco leave, it's better to say that the punch retained most of Marco's combat power, allowing him to deal with other enemies. If Garp didn't move at that time, Sengoku would move. As a Marine Admiral, he couldn't watch someone else rescue Ace in front of him. At least that person couldn't be Marco. Garp didn't say anything, and he didn't know what to say. Instead, Sengoku began his speech. Don't be confused. He's just a newcomer. But don't underestimate him. He will also be a factor of evil in the future. Straw Hat Boy Luffy, Fire Fist Ace grew up together as sworn brothers. His blood is the biological son of the Revolutionary Dragon. The son of the Revolutionary Dragon, it seems to be notifying all the navy to do their best to eliminate him. But in fact, this sentence has another meaning. With Luffy's strength, ordinary navy can't have much impact on him. Almost all the navy above the vice admiral on the battlefield are engaged in the battle and have no ability to be distracted. Only the top combat forces can be spared to deal with Luffy, and these people are the top of the navy. They are also aware that Dragon is Garp's son. To some extent, Sengoku's words are telling these people that Luffy is Garp's grandson, so take it easy. Akainu and Kizaru didn't care about this matter. They couldn't get away now. The destructive power displayed by the middle-aged white bud was extremely terrifying, and they needed to resist every attack seriously. The most leisurely one is actually Kyuzen. At least it was like this before, and a few ordinary captains couldn't do anything to him. After hearing Sengoku's call, his attention was also on Luffy, Mr. Garp's grandson. Before he could take any action, his brain sent him a dangerous signal. Thunder Bagua. Boom. Kyuzen's figure reorganized not far away, and he successfully avoided Yamato's attack by spreading his body in time. Ah, miss, I remember that you are not the type who likes fighting, and you have nothing to do with the Whitebird pirates, right? Looking at Yamato, who suddenly stared at him, Kyuzen was a little confused. Among the 3 admirals of the navy today, he was the one who had the most contact with Yamato. If he was asked to evaluate, Yamato was not like Kaido at all. Every time he met her, she gave people the feeling of a tourist, and she had no intention of fighting at all. No, I don't want to fight either, but I don't want to fight, so I want to fight you. Don't you think this is contradictory? As Kaido began to move, Yamato's plan to slack off also changed. Hancock and Jinbei were okay for acting at a distance, but Kaido would not approve of it if it lasted for a long time, so she needed a new opponent. Whitebird had 2 generals with him, and she had no interest in going in to mess things up. If she got involved, it would be even more troublesome. Whitebird and she were not related, and she didn't want to help. The remaining Kyuzen naturally became the best choice. Girls all have their own little secrets, and Yamato is no exception. There are some things about her that Kaido doesn't know, such as the ability to be immune to ice. Kaido's abilities cover a wide range. Lightning, fire, and wind blades are all elements he usually uses. In addition, he has a strong physique, and ice is not one of his usual abilities. Since the Ice Pillar Slate has just returned, there is no one in the beast who is good at using ice. So the ability to be immune to ice that Yamato obtained after the breakthrough has no chance to be used in the beast. As Kyuzen is the ability user of the ice fruit, the most common method is freezing. Compared with flash and lava, the frontal explosive power of Kyuzen's ability is slightly insufficient. Facing the absolutely restrained Yamato, he can only use physical skills. When it comes to physical skills, Yamato, who has been beaten by Kaido, will not be afraid. Looking at the entire battlefield, Kuzan is the one who is famous enough and strong enough, but it is difficult to cause effective damage to her. Taking advantage of Kaido's poor intelligence, she believes that she can perfectly execute her plan of fishing. It doesn't matter. For my future beautiful life, please show more strength. A beautiful life is truly beautiful when all of you disappear. Ice Ball. Compared with those pirates who simply aim to plunder and kill, Yamato is much kinder, but her identity is still a pirate. For the Navy, pirates are the source of instability in the sea. Kuzan raised his hand and aimed at Yamato. Several ice pillars shot out from his palm. As soon as they hit, Yamato was wrapped in the center of a sphere made of ice, but Kuzan did not feel relieved at all. Ice Saber. The cold air condensed into a scimitar in his palm, and with the blessing of domineering, he slashed at the ice ball he created. It is difficult for his ice fruit to kill the opponent directly. Even if it turns into an ice sculpture, as long as it can be thawed, it will not endanger life. If you want to kill the opponent, you have to break the target while freezing it. The ice blade as thin as a cicada's wing is extremely sharp. With the blessing of domineering, this makeshift weapon is not inferior to an ordinary famous sword, but before he can get close, the ice ball has broken into pieces. At this time, Yamato has entered the human beast form and swung his stick to block his weapon. Sure enough, this level of attack can no longer limit you. Maybe it will be okay if you work harder. Let me see what the general of this department can do. Not to mention Kaido, Kuzan didn't know what Yamato's ability was. He had never heard of any ability that could be completely immune to freezing. He just thought that the reason why Yamato had more resistance to his own ice was because she could also use ice. Although Yamato had fought with Kuzan, her mind was not on the battle at that time. If Kaido hadn't been watching her, she would have run away long ago. Under Kaido's coercion, Yamato was forced to go all out and at the same time refreshed Kuzan's cognition. Mahu and Blade. Ice Pheasant Slash. Kuzan's main focus was on Giant, and he didn't care about the cold air attached to him. You and I are both ice. Ice can't hurt ice. That's not necessarily true. Ice Dragon Spin Kill. Giant's cold air condensed into an ice dragon, spreading along his ice saber to his arm. There was no domineering aura attached, nor was it a physical attack, so Kuzan didn't take it seriously. But the next moment, he felt a strange feeling in his arm. Bayo Pheasant Mouth. He released an ice bat with his left hand, and the huge flying bird made of ice crashed into Yamato in front of him. Yamato's ability was immune to the effects of freezing, not the physical impact of the ice itself. The giant ice bat with a wingspan of more than 10 meters allowed Kuzan to temporarily distance himself. Hey, you're kidding. Aokiji had a few black and purple spots on his right wrist. As a user of the ice fruit, he knew exactly what that was. This is usually called frostbite. Chapter 977. The purpose of Bing's ascension. Bug's new beginning. Frostbite is very common, and he can cause frostbite to the enemy himself. But he never thought that one day, as a user of the ice fruit, he himself would be frostbitten. They are both ice, but his ice has little effect on the opponent, and can only rely on physical collision to cause damage, but the opponent's cold air can freeze his body. Although this is due to his carelessness and failure to defend against Yamato's cold air, it also means that the abilities of both parties are no longer on the same level. Mashibingaya. Before Kuzan could think about the principle of why he was frostbitten, Yamato's attacks followed one after another. With the previous lesson, Kuzan did not touch the cold air released by Yamato, but used elementalization to evade it. Natural ability users still have a great advantage. With the help of observation haki, they can disperse their bodies in advance to avoid the enemy's attack. As long as they can't hit, no matter how strong the armed haki is, they can't cause damage. Except for Red Hair's unique ability of observation and killing, it is quite troublesome for others to hurt natural ability users. You are an admiral. Why don't you fight back? Look at your colleagues. Don't you have any moves that look very powerful? Kuzan's fighting style made Yamato anxious. His fighting style was too plain and unpretentious. He had no deterrent power at all. If she didn't make a big noise, she couldn't fool Kaido. Your admiral was not given as a gift. Looking at the magma and laser splashing out from Whitebird, Yamato had strong doubts about Kyuzen. You are really underestimated. It seems that freezing has no effect on you. Who knows? Who will tell you about their abilities? You don't look very smart, but your fighting nerves are really sharp. Thank you for praising me. Who are you talking about? Arsehole. Explain yourself clearly. After all, there are only a few people who like to tell the enemy about their abilities. In most cases, if you want to know the enemy's abilities, you have to judge from the battle. The admirals of the navy have their own talents in combat. Kyuzen had a new judgment from the fact that he was frostbitten, but the rest could only be done by himself. Yamato's incomprehensible words gave Kyuzen an illusion that he might be able to get something out of her, but he failed in the end. It doesn't matter, I can only fight to the end anyway. Great Red Lotus I sell. Kyuzen's body was covered with frost, and the frostbite left behind gradually disappeared under the influence of life return and ability, while the cold air he released formed sharp ice spears in the sky. If freezing is ineffective, then he can only try physical attacks. Very good, that's how it should be. Looking at the dense ice spears in the sky, Yamato showed a happy expression, and only such a movement could fool Kaido. A flash of lightning flashed in the corner of his eyes, and lightning-like wings appeared behind Yamato. Amid the roaring lightning met the ice spears shot by Kyuzen. This is not the best solution to deal with this attack, but it is the best solution to inform Kaido. She is using this way to tell Kaido that she has used the power of thunder and lightning and has not been paddling at all. The number one member of the paddling group began to enter the real battle, and the other paddling groups also made their own changes, but it was not so smooth. After Yamato found Kyuzen, Hancock and Jinbei temporarily had no opponents. Seeing the positions of these two people vacant, Quinn seemed to have found new hope. Mahahaha, let me be your opponent from now on. Don't think about interfering in Miss Yamato's battle. As a person whose hobby is acting, Quinn's face will not change when he lies. Looking at the complex battlefield environment, he really has the urge to throw a plague bomb. But reason tells him that a big tree attracts the wind. There are countless people staring at him. If he makes a big noise, the two old men on the execution platform may move. Seeing Hancock and Jinbei accompany Yamato to paddling for so long, he feels that he can continue the life that Yamato just had. Big fragrant kick. But what he received was a kick from Hancock. Seeing his mechanical arm starting to petrify, Quinn's expression became very complicated. Terrible ability, but I'm one of the three disasters, along with the phantom disaster and the flame disaster. This ability is not enough. Quinn's true thoughts. Alga and I are colleagues. You should be more careful. The feedback from the arm told Quinn that if he kicked somewhere else, he would probably be petrified. This woman had no intention of holding back. I'm sorry, I hate men, especially your type. I believe you can understand that, right? Quinn didn't say anything else, just wiped his nosebleed, which was considered as tacit agreement with Hancock's words. At this time, Jinbei's gun wave also brushed Quinn's body and hit him, just destroying a turret on the encirclement wall. The slackers found their opponents again. Quinn's luck was still not very good, but on this battlefield, there was a group of even stranger people. Due to the battle between Yamato and Aokiji, the number of icebergs in the battlefield has been increasing, and even formed an ice maze. In this ice layer, there is a fake ice block. That is the disguise created by Mr. 3 using the wax fruit. Underneath, Buggy and a group of prisoners in Impel Down are plotting something. Captain Buggy, please give the order whether to take down Whitebird's head or defeat Kaido. No matter what, we will follow you. After all, you are also a crew member of Roger. Let us see the courage of the Pirate King crew. No, I don't really want to fight with them. To looking at the fanatical prisoners, Buggy was embarrassed and could only mutter in a low voice, but in this confined space, his voice still reached the ears of the prisoners. What? Captain Buggy, you actually, I have nothing. You actually want to fight both of them at the same time. Your ears are too arbitrary. Can you only hear what you want to hear? Since leaving Impel Down, these prisoners have regarded Buggy as their god, and their hearing has become more and more outrageous, which makes it difficult for Mr. 3 to accept. The most important thing is that Buggy can always climb up the pole they give him. Ahem, that's for later. Now we have to do this first. Buggy is great. Then this. Buggy is the genius. Do you understand? Understood, Captain Buggy. Okay. Guys, let's go. The pirates stood up and tried to push away the candle barrier created by Mr. 3, but the wax did not move at all. What's going on? Why can't I push it? It seems to be frozen. It doesn't matter, just let Brother 3 melt it. The pirates looked at Mr. 3, but the next moment, an embarrassing situation occurred. Although a flame had been lit above Mr. 3's head, the candle above them showed no signs of melting. What's going on? It seems that there is something very cold outside, and I can't melt it. An awkward voice came out of Mr. 3's mouth, and the surroundings fell into silence for a while, until a pirate asked a question. Do you feel like you can't breathe? It's so hard to breathe. There was another silence, and then the pirates realized something, and began to frantically knock on the wax blocks above, trying to escape before the oxygen ran out. Chapter 978 Buggy's Luck. Kaido's new target. Damn, why is this thing so hard? It can't be broken at all. It's useless. After a series of clanging sounds, the pirates under the cover helplessly put down their weapons. Their blades were already bent, and they couldn't break the wax barrier made by Mr. 3. The wax made by Mr. 3 with the wax fruit is as hard as steel after solidification. It is precisely because of the protective color of the white wax liquid and its hardness that they can find this resting place on the battlefield full of gunfire. But now, the barrier protecting them has become their cage. Originally, Mr. 3 could remove the wax barrier outside by himself, but the battle between Yamato and Kuzan affected the environment of the battlefield. Although Yamato's goal was to play a fake game, it was impossible to fool Kaido without taking real action. The extreme cold power of the ice fruit and the new Kyurem had already turned the surrounding area into a cold winter like the Red Lotus Hell, which caused Mr. 3's speed of melting the candle to be slower than its solidification speed. If you look from the outside, you will find that they are covered by a huge iceberg. The weight of the iceberg makes it impossible for them to push the lid. The extremely cold temperature makes Mr. 3 unable to melt his wax block, and the hard texture makes it impossible for the pirates to destroy it. For a while, they are trapped in a dead end. Well, it is worthy of being a wax block made by Mr. 3. It is really strong. Captain Buggy. Now is not the time to praise Brother San's ability. Yes, although Brother San's ability helped a lot in the prison break, it is not the time now. Wait, Captain Buggy, you must have a way, right? Please do it quickly. If you don't break this thing, the oxygen will really be sucked out. Huh? What can I do? I don't know how thick the ice layer below is. I can't get out either up or down. I'd better wait for the judgment of fate. The most powerful thing on him is the special buggy bomb. The problem is that the power of the buggy bomb has always been a mystery. If it is detonated here, he doesn't know whether it can blow up the cage outside, but it will definitely kill himself. Exhausted physically and mentally, Buggy simply chose to lie down on the ice with a helpless look on his face. Captain Buggy, have you given up hope just like that? This is so disappointing. Swoosh. The pirates around were condemning Buggy for his inaction, but a flash of knife light suddenly passed over them, and the originally sealed wax block cover slid to one side, allowing the pirates inside to see the light of day again. It's Hawkeye and Flower Sword. Their slash cut off the wax block of the third brother. They are prisoners in the Impel Down, but most of them are from the first 2 levels, and there are only a few who can cut steel. But for a swordsman, cutting steel is a foundation, not to mention Hawkeye, the world's #1 swordsman. He accepted the government's call and did not play a fake match, but so far he has only swung a knife at Whitebird, and after that he began his special slacking behavior. As a pure swordsman, Hawkeye hasn't seen a suitable opponent for a while after Shanks's arm was broken. Zoro of the East Sea is in a good mood, but he is still a young seedling, which makes Hawkeye uninterested. On the battlefield of Marineford, only Vista has a little interest in him. Vista, the captain of the 5th Division of the Whitebird Pirates, also known as Flower Sword, has a good two-sword style, and is also an excellent swordsman. In the hearts of all swordsmen, Hawkeye is the top challenge. In addition, the two sides belong to the hostile camps, and a duel between swordsmen begins. Save that's great. Captain Buggy. You have expected all this a long time ago. It must be like this, right? A pirate touched his bald scalp. The sword energy just now brushed their scalps and cut past them. If it weren't for Buggy lying down, they all bent over to condemn Buggy. I'm afraid they would be cut in half. So that's how it is. Captain Buggy, you are willing to sacrifice your reputation to save us? That's right. Captain Buggy. We will follow you until death. Oh. The prisoners in Impel Down were full of enthusiasm, and Mr. 3 was stunned. Bucky, these people may have problems with their brains. Do you really want to make them your subordinates? Buggy? Looking back, Buggy, who had just resigned himself to fate, became arrogant again. His body was torn into pieces and flew in the air, planning his awakening plan for Master Buggy. Under the random operation of a group of people, a relay Dendenmashi woke up again, and reporters far away in Marineford also saw the live broadcast again. What's going on? Why is the live broadcast restored again? Sengoku, who was below the execution platform, became angry when he saw the live broadcast signal connected again. After becoming a big Buddha, the execution platform was no longer suitable for him to stand on. In order not to collapse the execution platform, Sengoku came to the bottom of the execution platform. The direction of this war was no longer within expectations, and it was even beyond control. The encirclement wall was breached. Whitebeard's inexplicably restored youth. The flying dragon troops used to chase the remnants were swept up by the 8 evil dragons. The 7 warlords were either slacking off or paddling, and the only one who really worked hard was knocked down by Kaido. There was nothing wrong with the bear after the transformation, but his fighting ability was far inferior to that of the conscious bear. At this time, he was fighting with Ivankov. The situation on this battlefield has entered a stage of being out of control. And the situation that is even more out of control has come to Sengoku. I say, as a Navy Admiral, is it really okay for you to do nothing in this war? Sengoku heard a questioning voice, but the person who said this was not appropriate. He was not a Navy, but Kaido. Letting him do nothing in this war is more painful than killing him. Now Whitebeard is still working hard to save his son, and Kaido has also chosen his own target. Akainu and Kizaru are fighting Whitebeard together. Aokiji and Yamato are fighting fiercely, and Kaido has not found any problems yet. He had no intention of joining forces with Whitebeard, nor did he want to snatch his daughter's opponent, so he naturally targeted the 2 old guys who were dazed on the execution platform. The 3 admirals were all in the battle, and no one could stop Kaido. Or rather, before anyone else could react, Kaido had already arrived in front of the execution platform, looking at the 2 people on the execution platform with a greedy look. Kaido, this is a war that has nothing to do with you. Since it's a war, how can it have nothing to do with me? Let me see the strength of the Admiral of the Navy. Great Power Thunderbagua. Chapter 979, Buddha's Warring States Period, Black Arms Ifa. The muscles of his arms bulged, and the scales flashed with cold light. Kaido in the form of a human beast held the 8 precepts tightly in both hands, and the domineering aura was also attached to the tip of the weapon. With his own sprint, he smashed into the Buddha like Sengoku. Facing Kaido's mace, Sengoku crossed his hands to form a cross, his knees slightly bent, and the center of gravity of his body began to move downward. The golden Buddha's body continued to collide, and a swastika symbol faintly appeared on his arms. Vajra Wisdom Zang. The swastika symbol began to rotate, and a barrier composed of golden light appeared in front of Sengoku, blocking Kaido's mace in the air. However, the huge impact force did not disappear because of this. Instead, it pushed Sengoku all the way back. After breaking through several walls in succession, it finally stopped behind Marineford. This was originally a peaceful town. The residents living at the foot of Marineford did not have to worry about the harassment of pirates most of the time. Monsters like the Golden Lion were very rare after all. But now, this peace has been broken. Under the influence of Whitebeard's vibration, many houses have collapsed, and there are shells that are fired from time to time. Ugh, the golden body of the Buddha is really dazzling. Kaido, this war will not benefit you at all. Why do you want to interfere in such meaningless things, when you are willing to make a deal with the world government? No meaning? The meaning of war is to fight. How can it be meaningless? And don't get me wrong, I have always loved fighting, and order is just the preference of others. But we all hate the same kind of people. Those high and mighty world governments are not pleasing to people, so we will unite together. Now it seems that it was the wisest decision I made. Seeing that Sengoku blocked his attack, Kaido didn't think there was anything wrong. This is the Admiral of the Navy. If he can't even take such a stick, then the Navy is too boring. You lunatic. Fighting for the sake of fighting, intervening in the war, just to satisfy his own selfish desires. Kaido's madness made Sengoku unable to understand. Call me whatever you want, I'm going to have a good fight. Don't think about your execution platform. I'm not interested in the life or death of Roger's son. The fact that he fell into your hands only shows that he is not strong enough. But before I have my fun, you should fight me honestly. Boom. As Kaido finished speaking, there were several thunderclaps in the sky, and the sky above Kaido and Sengoku was covered by dark clouds. Crazy thunder inducing Neraku. The lightning in the clouds was attracted by Kaido, and along with the swing of Hachise, it hit Sengoku below. Akalanatha. Sengoku waved his right arm to block Kaido's Hachise, and a special momentum rushed straight into the clouds, even breaking through the dark clouds gathered above. A ray of sunlight shone on Sengoku's body again, making the golden body of the Buddha even more dazzling. The world government represents the order of the world. Without this order, the sea will only become more chaotic. The evil party without suppression will only bring disaster to the world. A shock wave condensed on the left arm of Sengoku, and then gradually compressed into a light spot. The Navy is the barrier of the world. The Navy that dominates the world is the justice on the sea. The impact of Buddha. Sengoku slapped Kaido's chest with his left palm, and the light spot also exploded at this time. On his palm, the domineering aura of the king's color was looming. Boom. Kaido's body flew backwards and knocked down several houses before stopping. However, before the smoke and dust had dispersed, a wild laugh came out. Ugh. That's right. I haven't met a navy with the domineering color for a long time. Gundari Ryusuyami. Kaido returned to Sengoku at a faster speed. Sengoku's Buddha's impact completely ignited his inner fighting spirit. The young Whitebird was a powerful opponent, but Sengoku, who was in the same era as Whitebird, was also a rare strong man. The domineering aura of the Overlord, the human fruit, the mythical beast, the great Buddha form, as the Admiral of the Navy, Sengoku has the strength to match it. Amoka Vajra, 100 styles. The golden Buddha's palm swung out a residual image, and the palm and stick intersected. The melee of the animal system unfolded in this city, but in the process of the two fighting, a heavy footsteps came from the streets of Marineford. Click, click. Under the rain curtain, a figure that looked slightly unbalanced gradually approached, with a head of purple hair wet by the rain. Looking at this dilapidated town, his eyes also looked at Kaido. Click. There was a collision sound from the mechanical arm of the right hand, and the mechanical clamp at the front had formed a fist shape. Its holder also came to the side of Sengoku and Kaido after it suddenly jumped up. Bang! Crushing hurricane. At the same time, Sengoku, who was fighting with Kaido, took Kaido's roaring thunder trigram with the golden body of the great Buddha, and the sound like a huge bell spread throughout most of the town. A strange force entered into the body of Sengoku with the bombardment of the 8 fasts, but relying on the ability of the Buddha, Sengoku was not affected too much. Taking this opportunity, Sengoku also grabbed Kaido's shoulders, limiting Kaido's ability to move. Now, boom. The mechanical arm bombarded Kaido's head, but there was an extra transparent barrier between the mechanical arm and Kaido. The seemingly weak barrier became an uncrossable gap at this time, and even the Seaston bullet shot from the center of the mechanical arm was blocked. Then a green energy surrounded Kaido's dragon tail, and as Kaido turned around, it hit Sengoku, making him distance himself from the two again. The higher level of observation color, predicting the future. The short-term prediction brings a lot of improvement to the battle. The enemy's surprise attack was within Kaido's expectations, and the barrier he held up allowed him to reasonably avoid danger. He is also a capable person, and it is also a trouble for the Seaston bullet to hit his body. Liking to fight does not mean liking to be beaten. I saw it. The former Admiral of the Navy headquarters, Black Arms Zephyr. You can't help but want to participate in this event. The person who came was the current chief instructor of the Navy, Zephyr. Although he retired behind the scenes, he still retained his rank of admiral. This battle that affected the entire navy was originally commanded by him in the rear, but after the battle between Kaido and Sengoku came to the town, he still took action. This town carries too many memories of him, his family, and students. His life has long been inseparable from this town. Looking at the constantly destroyed Marineford, he still came to the front line of the battlefield and assisted Sengoku in attacking Kaido. If you break into the enemy's hinterland alone, you must be prepared to be besieged. Pirate. Chapter 980 Akainu, Kizaru, the candidate for the breakthrough. Numbers are one of the biggest advantages of the Navy, not just the number of grassroots combat forces, but also the high-level combat forces. If a one-on-one battle cannot be determined for a while, then let two people do it. Other forces may not be able to do this, but the Navy has this capital. The original admiral is also an admiral. Due to physical reasons, Zephyr's physical fitness has slightly declined, but it is not something that ordinary people can deal with. The Navy admiral who does not kill has long become a thing of the past. After experiencing the tragic deaths of his family and students, Zephyr's heart has already undergone a huge change. Although he still believes in the Navy, he has also established a new pirate guerrilla team to hunt pirates on the sea. This time, the top war naturally transferred Zephyr back. Long time no see, old friend. Well, the last time we joined forces was decades ago. Yeah. After his family was killed 30 years ago, Zephyr withdrew from the front line, and he stayed in the Navy at the request of Steelbone Khan. Although they are people of the same era, Zephyr and Sengoku's friendship is far less than that of Crane and Garp. If it weren't for the opening of the top war, they would not have had this opportunity to join forces. If they don't have the advantage in numbers, and don't fight the pirates one-on-one, then there's something wrong with their brains. Brother Kaido, do you need me to hold one for you? Jin, who was searching for Blackbird in the sky, appeared behind Kaido. He hadn't found Blackbird yet, but he saw Kaido being attacked by Zephyr and Sengoku. No need, go do your thing. You're not needed here. Don't interfere with my fight. Yes. Jin flew back into the sky, and Kaido shook his arms, ready for the second round. He hated others interfering in his fight, but he didn't hate the increase in the number of enemies. Having more difficult opponents was his way of finding fun. At this time, Zephyr took out a can of spray from his arms, and took 2 puffs. As his body aged, he contracted a disease similar to asthma, which could occur at any time during high-intensity battles and required medication. His body and Whitebird had 2 different diseases, which were chronic diseases, that were difficult to cure. Is your body okay? I'll be fine after this fight, but I'll cover you. Zephyr has a clear understanding of his body. He is capable of participating in this level of battle, but he doesn't have the ability to be the main attacker. After losing his right hand, his strength was limited. The Science Corps equipped him with a special prosthetic arm called a crusher on his right arm, but it is not as good as the original arm after all. The crusher is not without advantages. It is equipped with Ceaston inside, and is considered the nemesis of the ability user, so Zephyr dared to say this. Have you finished discussing? Then continue. The second round of the war should begin. Kaido jumped slightly a few times. After the power of the Dragon Dance was integrated into his body, he took the lead to meet the 2 people. His target was not Sengoku or Zephyr, but Zephyr's crusher. That weapon also posed a great threat to him, and needed to be dealt with first. The Ceaston that made it came from Wano country. At the beginning, Caesar also participated in the production of the crusher. After he ran to Doflamingo's hands to hang around, the information about the crusher was also sent to the intelligence room of the beasts. There are only a few enemies that Kaido should pay attention to, and he has a certain understanding of this matter. With the 8 precepts in hand, he doesn't have to worry about physical contact. This is also done just in case. Crushing tornado. Zephyr's crusher hit the ground, and the bricks and stones on the ground shattered under his attack. Then the front end of the crusher began to rotate, and a whirlwind came out of the crusher, carrying the bricks and stones on the ground, and the Ceaston bullets shot from the crusher to Kaido in front. Such an attack has no effect, but it can create a better output environment for Sengoku. When Kaido evaded Zephyr's attack, Sengoku had already jumped high, and the huge Buddha's palm shone with golden shockwaves, slapping Kaido from both sides. while Kaido found his own fun. In the square in front, Whitebeard's battle became more intense. Big fire spray. The Magna Giant fist collided with Whitebeard's fist, and the Justice coat behind him fluttered in the wind, but Akainu had no intention of retreating at all, and he was firmly nailed in front of Whitebeard like a nail. Yasakani no Magatama. A dazzling yellow light appeared from the side of Akainu and Whitebeard, like a small sun, so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. In that sun, a large number of lasers burst out like rain and hit Whitebeard. Without any description, facing the middle-aged Whitebeard, Kizaru also cheered up, and the dense laser bullets all hit Whitebeard. Then he came to another direction in an instant and successfully avoided Whitebeard's counterattack. It's really scary like a monster. Is it impossible to attack like this? There were many red marks on Whitebeard's body, but he was not pierced. With his current physique, Whitebeard still successfully blocked Kizaru's attack. Hell dog. In the gap, when Whitebeard attacked Kizaru, Akainu's magna-like arm quickly stretched out and stabbed towards Whitebeard's head, but Whitebeard's elbow appeared a white light symbolizing vibration, and took the opportunity to turn around and hit Akainu directly. Even with a natural body, Akainu's internal organs were greatly affected by the vibration, but he still did not retreat. While his whole body was turned into magma, he continued to launch his fierce attack. Akainu resisted Whitebeard's pressure from the front, and Kizaru looked for his own opportunity from the side. This was the tactic of the two, and they also played their respective advantages. Even the rejuvenated Whitebeard was restrained here by the combined attack of Akainu and Kizaru, preventing him from getting closer to the execution platform. But they also failed to defeat Whitebeard quickly, and instead the battle fell into a stalemate. Yatagashi. Kizaru, who had just been forced back by Whitebeard, kicked several times in the air, and several lasers flew towards Whitebeard's body like a flock of crows, but were blocked by Marco with his own body in mid-air. Dad, I can't get through. The road to the execution platform is blocked by the Navy. The flame of regeneration healed Marco's body. Joz just took over the Vice Admiral who was entangled with him, giving him time to come to Whitebeard's side and ask about the details of the next step. Although almost all the Admiral level forces were entangled, there was still a gap in front of the execution platform, and the Whitebeard pirates had no manpower to deal with him. Boom. Swinging his fist towards Akainu in front, Whitebeard began to look at the entire battlefield, and finally set his sights on Luffy who was surrounded by a group of Navy. If he wanted to break through Garp's defense, it seemed that he was the only one who could rely on him. Chapter 981, Grandpa Sunken, Aokage's questions. Boom. Whitebeard clenched his fist and punched Luffy. The air cracked like a spider web under his fist. The powerful shock wave rushed towards Luffy with a mighty force. All the Navy on the road were blown away by this punch. Even if he was a lieutenant general, he had to choose to temporarily avoid the attack. This was the most terrifying thing about Whitebeard in his prime. The tremor fruit was the power of natural disasters in his hands. He could cause immeasurable damage to the surroundings with a wave of his hand. Correspondingly, when Whitebeard threw this punch, Akainu and Kizaru also made their own responses. American English no Yatagashi. Dalgeo Gurren. Whitebeard dodged the dog Gurren, but Kizaru, whose whole body turned into flashes, hit Whitebeard's chest firmly. In a battle of this level, distraction is a big taboo. Even Whitebeard had to pay a price for intervening in other battlefields when he was fighting 1 against 2. Facing Kizaru's surprise attack, it was basically impossible to avoid it without adequate preparation. Whitebeard took 2 steps back, blood flowing down the lines of his muscles, staining the cloth belt wrapped around his waist red. Dad, don't worry about me, I'll handle this, everyone. Cover Straw Hat Boy. Help him rush over. Kaido was bored and went to fight Sengoku. Yamato was pulling Kyuzen to play a fake match, and Whitebeard shared the pressure of Akainu and Kizaru, but this was the limit of what they could do. Whitebeard didn't expect Kaido to help him do anything. This kind of thing was already a pleasant surprise. The 7 warlords of the sea had no intention of fighting, and the captain could fight against the vice admiral. He needed someone who could break through Garp's defense in this situation. He wanted to break through Garp from a hard power perspective, but he couldn't find one, so he had to find another way. When on Whitebeard's ship, Ace kept talking about his younger brother every day. Whitebeard also had a certain understanding of Luffy's family relationship. If anyone among the remaining people could rescue Ace in front of Garp, it could only be Luffy. Whitebeard's voice spread over most of the square, and the pirates under his command also responded. The captain's order was absolute for the pirates under his command. The pirates who were able to get rid of the opponents in front of them began to move towards Luffy. Before Luffy could react to what happened, a large number of pirates from the New World had gathered around him. These pirates were also famous in the past, and many of them were even stronger than Luffy. But under Whitebeard's order, they were willing to cover for him. That won't do. If you all pass, I will be in trouble. Hachasha. Flashing imp. Where are you looking? Kizaru's attack was interrupted by Whitebeard before it could be released. The result of Whitebeard's distraction just now was almost repeated on him. Borsalino. Leave that to the others. Deal with Whitebeard first. As long as he is dealt with, the Whitebeard pirates will be vulnerable. How dare you talk big? If you want to take my head, then try it. Navy. Kusakimokiri slashed the ground, and a huge crack extended to the execution platform, helping the charging pirates to open up a new path. Whitebeard even took on several attacks from Akainu to restrict Kizaru within his ability and prevent him from intervening in other battlefields. People fell every moment. With Ace as the center point, both the pirates and the navy had suffered huge casualties. As Kaido left the front battlefield, Yamato also relaxed a lot, and the intensity of the battle with Kyuzen dropped sharply. Did you see it? What? This battlefield, because of your arrival, the casualties have become more serious. If it weren't for you pirates, this would never happen. As a Navy Admiral, Kyuzen's fighting nerves are not weak at all. Yamato's moves look extremely powerful, but they are also weird. He is Garp's chief disciple, and his main combat power is the ice fruit. But that doesn't mean he doesn't know physical skills. It's just that facing Yamato with the blessing of lightning, he is at a disadvantage in the physical skills game. But sometimes Yamato would suddenly stop, giving people a feeling of deliberately letting him go, which made Kyuzen more and more confused about what she wanted to do. After all, normal people can't understand Kaido's family environment. What are you talking about? This is a war. Isn't it common for people to die in war? Besides, you started this war. It doesn't seem to be wrong. It seems that you are not as naive as I thought. Don't talk to me in that tone of an elder. Who do you think you are? Don't get me wrong. If my juniors become pirates, I will have a headache. I'm just curious. You don't like war, and even the battles are full of perfunctory. Why did you come to this battlefield? Of course I was forced to do so, but am I perfunctory in my battles? This is not okay. She actually let her opponent notice the perfunctory, which is simply the biggest failure in her match-fixing career. If Kaido noticed it, she would be in trouble. Thinking of the horrible scene, Yamato shook her head violently, and then rushed to the other side in front of Kyuzen. With the blessing of Zekrum's lightning power, Kyuzen could not limit Yamato's steps. When she appeared in a safe area again, she had a Heracross in her hand. Hey, why did you come to such a place? This place is not suitable for you. He is really generous. He actually agreed to let you come. Don't go there anymore. Your strength won't help you. Ever since the Jigglypuff blocked a bullet for her, Yamato didn't want to bring Pokemon to dangerous battlefields. Except for tourist level missions, she would not bring Pokemon, even if her Pokemon were special types like Diancie and Genesect. Heracross is not good at high speed flying. In the war on the top with a large number of senior generals, that kind of flying speed will easily make him a target. Realizing the truth in Yamato's words, Heracross turned his attention to Buggy and his group. There seemed to be a good locksmith there. Seeing Luffy carelessly going to rescue people without even a key, he flew helplessly in the direction of Mr. 3, intending to help get a key. Buggy's location is almost the safest area of the entire battlefield. Yamato did not stop him, but instead found Kyuzen again, intending to correct Kyuzen's perfunctory thoughts. At the same time, behind the battlefield, another group of forces was approaching Marineford. Captain Teach, do you really want to do this? It's very dangerous there. Hahaha, of course. Isn't this the reason for handing Ace over to the Navy? The power to destroy the world is destined to belong to me. Chapter 980 to Kaido's Fury. The prisoners in the 6th layer of Infinite Hell are all real monsters. Even Ivankov only dared to release Crocodile because he had Crocodile's handle in his hand. But Blackbeard is different. He needs to recruit combat forces quickly, so he set his sights on the combat forces of the 6th layer from the beginning. After his special selection method, he also found his subordinates on the 6th layer and brought them to Marineford, intending to start his new plan. In the triangular current, he knew nothing about what happened in Marineford. If he knew what happened here in advance, he probably wouldn't come here at all. He did not come to the front battlefield. Blackbeard's initial goal was to pick up leaks, so he quietly landed from the rear of Marineford, intending to observe the result of Whitebeard's battle. That old guy is really brave. He is so old, but he can still fight so fiercely. Meow ha ha ha. Teach, are you scared? Why not let me take over the captaincy? Avalo Pizarro laughed and asked Blackbeard for the captaincy. He was one of the prisoners he brought out from Impel Down, an ambitious man nicknamed the King of Evil Politics. Almost all the subordinates selected by Blackbeard are like this. They all have unique ideas. Before the selection, Blackbeard also made plans. He didn't want those who were too weak, and he didn't dare to take those who were too strong. In the end, he chose these few people. What a joke. This is the Blackbeard Pirates. How could the captain give it to you? Come with me, especially you Wolf. Be careful, don't let others notice you. Blackbeard stayed in Marineford for a few days on the pretext of preparing for battle, and had a certain understanding of the environment of the town here. At this moment, a shock wave rushed from the side. The figure of the Golden Buddha appeared in the sight of the Blackbeard Pirates. Warring states? How could he fight his opponent Kaido in this place? Blackbeard felt that his brain cells were not enough. It was clearly a war against Whitebeard, but Kaido, who had nothing to do with him, was actually fighting the Navy Admiral. Not only that, there is also that old guy Zephyr. The Navy has invested a lot of money this time. Even Zephyr has gone to the battlefield. Captain Teach, there may be worse news. Laffit looked at the screen on the side. Because of Buggy, the live broadcast signal of the battlefield was restored, and now he could just see the picture of Whitebeard. Looking at Whitebeard's face, that was the same as decades ago, Blackbeard rubbed his only remaining eye, his face full of disbelief. What is going on? With so many combat forces in the Navy, they will definitely not let Whitebeard go. When they are both injured, he will pick up the leak, kill Whitebeard and take away his ability. This is a perfect plan in Blackbeard's eyes. But now, Kaido who is disrupting the situation and the young and energetic Whitebeard, Blackbeard feels that his brain cells are not enough. Captain Teach, what should we do next? Wait, let me think about it. It seems that we have to make some changes. Whitebeard's lively appearance will not die for a while, and Blackbeard does not want to face the middle-aged Whitebeard at all. He abandoned his dignity to get on Whitebeard's ship and knew how terrible the young Whitebeard was. If he appeared in front of Whitebeard, he would definitely die miserably if he violated the iron rule of the Whitebeard Pirates. Watching Kaido and Sengoku fighting, coupled with the environment where no one was around, Blackbeard had a new idea. Ugh, come on, is it not enough? I just finished warming up. While Blackbeard was making a new plan, Kaido became more and more excited. In the high-intensity battle, the blood in his body began to boil, giving him a long-lost sense of pleasure. With the blessing of Dragon Dance, Kaido became more and more courageous. The speed and strength after the blessing brought great pressure to Sengoku and Zephyr. If it was Zephyr who was in good health, their battle would be much simpler. But Zephyr's body is no longer as good as it used to be, and the attack of asthma has become the biggest disadvantage. Moreover, as the intensity of the battle increased, the pressure on Zephyr became greater and greater, and even the frequency of illness increased a lot. When Zephyr took out the spray again, Kaido also launched a new round of attacks. This was not a simple duel, but a fight to the death. In the battle between Roger and Whitebeard, Whitebeard would consider Roger's physical illness and give him time to rest, but Kaido would not. In his opinion, since he joined the battle with illness, he had already made up his mind. If he held back because of such a thing, it would be disrespectful. A knee dragon dance bagua. The dragon flame wrapped his whole body. Kaido was like a dragon from hell, and the power of the dragon dance emerged again, and it took effect at the same time as Kaido's attack. Kaido had already integrated those skills and developed new skills based on the characteristics of the skills. The dragon dance greatly blessed him, and it was also the skill he was most familiar with. In order not to be interrupted by the enemy, he had integrated the dragon dance into many moves. A knee dragon dance bagua is the most powerful move. Zifa's movements became stiff, and Sengoku, like before, planned to use his ability to block Kaido's attack and let Zifa look for opportunities to attack. With the blessing of the Crusher, Zifa's damage to the ability user is no less than Sengoku. The golden light greeted Kaido, but unexpectedly, at the moment when Kaido's mace was swung, the golden light on Sengoku's body suddenly disappeared, and he also returned to normal from the Buddha form. Although there is still domineering, the sudden disappearance of the ability also disrupted Sengoku's rhythm. After losing the Buddha's golden body, his defense power also dropped by more than one level. Facing Kaido after 2 dragon dance blessings, Sengoku's body flew backwards, blood spurted out of his mouth uncontrollably, and a bloodline crossed the sky. Looking at Sengoku, who was beaten away, Kaido did not choose to chase, nor did he continue to attack Zifa. There was no joy on his face, but frost. How dare you interfere with my fight? The extremely powerful Conqueror's haki surged out in all directions, even more terrifying than the previous battle, and the ground in front of Kaido turned into a swamp-like object under the impact of the Conqueror's haki, and a big hand stretched out from the ground. This is Pizarro's ability. He is a person with the ability to eat the island fruit. He can integrate himself into the island and manipulate the island, which is very similar to Pika's stone fruit. And Blackbird also jumped out from the palm of this big hand. The reason why Sengoku lost his ability was not anything else, but that Blackbird, who came out from underground using Pizarro's ability, grabbed his ankle with dark water. Just now, Sengoku's attention was all on Kaido, and he didn't notice Blackbird's sneak attack at all. Chapter 983. People's dreams will not disappear, but your life will end here. The dark fruit is the nemesis of ordinary ability users. Even strong people like Sengoku and Whitebird cannot use their abilities under the influence of the dark fruit. He couldn't intervene in Whitebird's front battlefield. Looking at Kaido and Sengoku fighting here, Blackbird had 2 ideas in his heart. Help Sengoku sneak attack Kaido, or help Kaido sneak attack Sengoku. Both the Great Buddha Fruit and the Blue Dragon Fruit are very powerful, and the abilities of these 2 mythical beasts make him jealous. The reason why he chose to sneak attack Sengoku was also the result of Blackbird's thinking. When he was selecting companions in the City of Advancement, he had fought with these people. None of these prisoners on the 6th floor were the type that could be taken care of, and Blackbird was sure of one thing about them, that his dark fruit was useful. So it wasn't him who had a problem, but the group of beasts. Drake and Jin were almost giving him a shadow. He didn't know what the hell the group of beasts were. If the ability was ineffective on Kaido, then he would be a joke. Moreover, he was the leader of the jailbreak and impelled down, and he had a falling out with the Navy. Seeing Kaido fighting 1 against 2, he finally chose to sneak attack Sengoku. He and Jin had a big conflict, but in Blackbird's view, it was nothing. He was always the unlucky one. Even if there was the problem of Drake's eyes, he also lost an eye, so it should be considered even. In Blackbird's heart, interests are the most important. In Blackbird's heart, trust never exists. Even his subordinates, he did not give much trust. The reason why he dared to use these people is that they have the same purpose. As long as the interests are consistent, they can form an alliance, which is the so-called pirate. So Kaido is not an object that cannot be united. Sengoku is Kaido's enemy. He attacked Sengoku, and Kaido would not give himself a stick, right? Kaido will not join forces with Whitebird. After he takes away Sengoku's ability, Whitebird will probably be almost beaten, and he can decide what to do, based on the situation. Arrogance, and self-righteousness are the characteristics of Blackbird. The fundamental interests of the Whitebird pirates and the Beast's pirates are contradictory. In Blackbird's view, it is impossible for these 2 behemoths to unite. Kaido must have other purposes for appearing here, so he made this decision. He admitted that he had a gambling element, but he was originally a crazy gambler. Since he set foot on Whitebird's pirate ship decades ago, he has embarked on the path of a gambler. The battle between top combat forces seems ordinary, but every blow is actually a fight of life and death. Odin in the original timeline was directly knocked down by Kaido when he was distracted. forcing Goku, who is a capable person. That moment is actually more deadly. Blackbird thinks this is a risk-free gamble. Since he broke into the Impel Down, he has established an irreconcilable contradiction with the Navy, so whether to attack Goku will not affect anything. It's just that he lacks understanding of Kaido, and doesn't know how much Kaido cares about the process of the battle. You two bastards, dare to interfere with my battle? Looking at Blackbird and Pizarro who merged into the ground in front of him, Kaido was surprisingly angry, even angrier than seeing Yamato shouting that he didn't want to fight, and then lying flat on the spot. The earthy yellow energy merged into his souls, and Kaido stomped hard on the ground with one foot. Boom. The earth began to shake, and a neat road surface turned upwards, and in the blink of an eye it became tattered. Pizarro, who had merged into the island, felt his blood boiling, and was directly forced out by Kaido's kick. Earthquake? Blackbird widened his only remaining eye, and the ability he had always dreamed of was actually used by Kaido. It's just an earthquake. I don't like to use this ability, but I'm very angry now. Haha, Kaido, join forces with me. If we join forces, we will definitely rule the world. The combined abilities of you and me are enough to turn the world upside down. Looking at the furious Kaido, Blackbird not only did not fear or retreat, but instead proposed to him to join forces. By then, you can have as many opponents as you want, enough for you to fight to your heart's content. Ahaha, you are really brave. Rule the world? You really dare to say that? Looking at the arrogant Blackbird, Kaido was even laughed at by him. What's wrong? Don't you even have this little bit of magnanimity? Ambition breeds dreams. People's dreams will never end. As long as people are alive, they must work hard towards their dreams. People's dreams will never end. That's right, people's dreams will never end, but your life ends here. Kaido agreed with Blackbird's words, but his killing intent towards him did not decrease at all. Interfering with his battle was an unforgivable thing. Even if it was Yamato who did it, he couldn't turn the page without fighting for a few days. It was at this time that Jin, who had sensed Kaido's domineering color, returned to the vicinity again, and saw Blackbird's disgusting face. Brother Kaido. Jin, I'll give you another chance. Get rid of this guy. Don't let me down. Kaido knew very well that Jin's biggest goal in the war was Blackbird. He had not taken action, because he was waiting for Jin. Kaido also had his own care for his subordinates whom he valued. Jin was his right-hand man, and was worth his patience for a while. But if Jin didn't come again, he would not be able to bear it. Please rest assured, Brother Kaido, I will not let him escape again. I will take his head back for the honor of our clan. Leave it to you. My interest has been ruined by this guy. Kaido took back his weapon, looked at the flying Sengoku and Zifa beside him, and even lost the interest to continue fighting. He just looked at Blackbird. Even if he had any backup, Kaido would not give him this chance again. You lunatic, is the conflict between us going to the point of no return? I also lost an eye. As for other things, I can apologize. Swoosh. The blue flame blade passed by Blackbird, and Jin directly entered the blue flame mode. You talk too much nonsense. This time I will chop off your head, and see if you, an alien, can still survive. Asshole. This guy's not easy to deal with. Hurry up, you guys. Blackbird called his companions, to ask them for help, and then find a chance to slip away, but before he finished speaking, he heard a scream in his ears. The red flames formed a terrifying cage that had enveloped all his subordinates. The one who released the flames was not Jin, but Shaina. Go ahead, I'll take care of the guy who's in the way for you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 984. My dear brother has sworn. Can't you cooperate? With the building of the Navy headquarters as the dividing line, Marineford has become two distinct battlefields. On the square, the Whitebird pirates and the Navy's elite are fighting to the death. At the same time, there are also the lazy seven warlords of the sea and some of the beast's fishing monsters. Behind the building is a more top hunting ground. Kaido leaned against the ruins with a gloomy face. He was very unhappy that the battle was interrupted. In that situation, Sengoku was hit in the chest by the powerful Oni Dragon Dance Bagua. Originally, he would not be injured so badly. The golden body of the Buddha is the hardest shield for Sengoku. As his combat power reached its peak, there were only a few cases of his own shield being broken. The last time was more than 10 years ago, when Arceus' attack broke his defense. But Blackbeard's ability is very disruptive. Originally, he raised his shield to fight Kaido, but his shield suddenly evaporated. His body reacted, but it was still too bad. Such a Sengoku has made Kaido lose the will to fight. Kaido pays great attention to the process of fighting, but he is not rigid. If this battle will determine the future, Kaido will still choose to defeat the opponent in front of him first, but he will kill those who interfere with his battle afterwards. But this time is different. Sengoku is not his main target, but just a prop for him to relieve boredom. The process that he wants to enjoy has been destroyed, so Kaido will naturally not continue. Whether it is to cure Sengoku, or give himself a stick, forcibly pulling the two to the same level, it does not conform to Kaido's logic. Therefore, he just silently watched Zifa take Sengoku away from the battlefield temporarily, and observed the direction of Jin and Blackbeard. He wants to see what other ways this alien can survive this time. At this moment, Jin's battlefield has also been divided into two parts. Bizarro and Blackbeard are in front of Jin, and the other members of the Blackbeard pirates are blocked on the other side by Shaina. Bizarro, take me away from here. The plan has changed. We can't afford to offend this guy now. Blackbeard's plan has failed. He wanted to join forces with Kaido to plan something new. Among the four emperors, he had an old grudge with red hair, and he violated Whitebeard's iron rule. As early as the day he killed Thatch, he had offended half of the four emperors. There are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. This is the creed he believes in. Killing Sengoku is obviously beneficial to both of them, so Blackbeard did it. Blackbeard knew that Jin wanted to kill him, but as long as Kaido agreed to join forces, he should be able to stop Jin. After all, Kaido is Jin's captain. As a result, he did not expect Kaido's brain circuit to be so unique, and he had no intention of joining forces at all. His dark acupoints can also transfer targets, but the speed is too slow. Judging from Jin's previous performance, his dark acupoints are not in time. Bizarro's island fruit is different. For Bizarro, who has eaten the island fruit, the island is an extension of his body outward, and it is easy to transfer within the island. You are such a weakling, Teach. Are you scared now? Why don't you let me be the captain? Meow. Although Kaido hit him with an earthquake, the power of the earthquake was mostly absorbed by the island itself, and Bizarro managed to escape from the island in time. He was not affected too much. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. You guys who are rusting in prison have no idea how scary these monsters are outside. Pay attention to his hilt. That madman's hilt is loaded with sea-stone bullets. These pirates have been in prison for a long time. Deppen, who was sent in by Olga, was the last one to go in. Many people don't know what kind of monsters the four emperors are now. Whitebeard and Charlotte Linlin became famous earlier, and they still knew how to be afraid, but facing Red Hair and Kaido, they were less afraid. After all, they were also big pirates before, and they were a little confident in their own strength. Got it, meow. The fundamental reason these people joined Blackbeard was to leave Impelton, and after that, they temporarily formed a group of interests. As people with special abilities, they were still restrained in front of Blackbeard, so they were willing to give Blackbeard some face, and listen to his command for the time being. Bizarro's body began to merge into the ground, intending to sneak underground with Blackbeard and leave. After he sneaked underground, the entire island would turn into his body, but attacking the island would have no effect. Only by finding his body in the entire island could effective damage be caused. Originally, this was a good escape ability, but as soon as he merged into the island, there was a sound of breaking air behind him. It was not Jin's slash, but a red chain. The other end of the chain was held in Shaina's hand, with a sarcastic smile on the corner of her mouth that was exposed. Don't get in the way, that guy belongs to Jin. Your opponent is me. Meow ha ha ha. That's useless. Your tiny chain can't hit me. How? How is it possible? Bizarro is very familiar with his ability. Just now, only his rock-like face was left on the ground, but an extremely painful expression suddenly appeared on that face. Tiny chain? You don't know at all. This is a creation given to me by the supreme power. Shaina clenched the chain in her hand and pulled it upwards, almost lifting up half of the street. It seemed to be just an ordinary chain, but the moment the gun head pierced the ground, the shape of the red chain changed. The underground parts scattered in all directions, and dozens of spikes almost affected half of the street. Pizarro thought he had avoided Shaina's attack, but he didn't know that it was just a precursor to the attack. As the red chain pierced into the body, the power left by Arceus in the chain also took effect. Pizarro's ability of the island fruit failed, and he was directly pulled out by Shaina like a dead fish. The sharp barbs pierced Pizarro's body, causing him to scream in pain. He was dragged to his own battlefield by Shaina, and fell directly in front of the other members of the Blackbird Pirates. Since you have joined that guy's army, you should be prepared to die with him. My lovely brother has sworn an oath of honor. If I let him escape, I will be really ashamed. The two of them are the only known Lunarians still alive in the world. There may be other survivors, but Shaina has never found any trace of them in all these years. Even though Jin has grown from a weak child to a powerful monster, in her heart he is still the same brother. Originally, she didn't care much about Blackbeard's affairs, and Jin also said that he would solve this problem himself, but Jin just swore an oath, and he used the honor of the race. In this case, Shaina would never allow any problems to occur. Chapter 985 The Beginning of Destruction. Strictly speaking, Shaina's red chain is no longer the original red chain, but the 2.0 version. Yamato's kin finally entered the 7.0 era because of damage, but Shaina's red chain is different. The original purpose of its birth was to restrain Pokemon ability users, that is, to target possible traitors, but so far, there has been no such traitor among the gods' grace, which is a good thing, but it also leads to the fact that the red chain has basically no chance to appear. Coupled with Shaina's personality, this chain is more of a trump card at the bottom of the box, and its symbolic meaning is far greater than its practical meaning. This is somewhat different from the practical Arceus cult, so in the replacement of weapons, Arceus also upgraded the red chain, so that it can target ordinary fruit ability users. Although Shaina's armed color attainments are good, facing some weird abilities, proficient in domineering, may not be able to touch the opponent. With a targeted weapon, Shaina's combat effectiveness has also been improved. The red chain will not weaken ordinary ability users, but it can accurately capture their entities, such as Pizarro. After he was thrown to the ground, Shaina's red chain once again entered the chain gun state, and the sharp cross-shaped spearhead pointed at the members of the Blackbird Pirates. Who do you plan to go first? Although Kaido is still beside him, Blackbird can't escape, no matter how he looks at it, but if things develop to the point where Kaido needs to take action, Shaina and Jin will lose face. She will not interfere with Jin's battle, but she will not let others interfere with him either. Don't think about running, the two of them will not give up, they both have the ability to fly, and there is Kaido, the madman, behind them, so they can't run away. If you want to live, catch this woman, and help the captain solve the fire disaster. Laffit glanced at the pirates around him, and had already noticed some people's little thoughts. This makeshift Blackbird Pirates had no friendship to speak of, especially the few people who just came out of Impel Down. If Blackbird really wants to fall, they will only take the opportunity to escape when Blackbird attracts the enemy's attention, and will never fight to the death to hold the opponent. It is useless to talk about loyalty with such people, only interests can tie them down. These people are penniless now, and the only thing that can make them nervous is their own lives. Meow, that woman's weapon is weird. It feels like the freak teach both conceal other people's abilities. Damn, how come there are so many weapons that can restrain ability users? Why bother so much? Since she doesn't want us to leave, let's catch her. I hate the pirates of the beasts, and I want her clothes and weapons. Deppen's eyes were full of greed. She was good at using whips, but she didn't find a suitable weapon in the city, so she picked up a robbed spear. The power of the red lock in Shaina's hand induced her inner greed. At the same time, Deppen also likes beautiful clothes. She has long been resentful of the prison uniform on her body. Looking at Shaina in front of her, she just wants to take away everything from her. And the reason she was imprisoned was that she ran into Olga, and she has not forgotten this hatred over the years. Shaina's attitude and Laffit's words made them understand that if they didn't solve the woman in front of them, nothing else could be done. So Deppen was the first to move, and Shiryu also acted with her. He was originally the warden of the Impel Down, but his character was extremely cruel and bloodthirsty. He often killed prisoners for no reason and enjoyed it. This violated the regulations of the Impel Down. After many unsuccessful persuasion, Magellan had to lock up Shiryu. When the Impel Down was invaded, Magellan released him. Because of the scarcity of combat power, he hoped to use his ability, but Shiryu turned against him on the spot and brought antidote to Blackbeard and others. Otherwise they would be wiped out by Magellan. Shiryu's joining was more proactive than other pirates who were recruited, and he also chose to take action at this time. Although it was their first time working together, the two of them coordinated well, aiming at the base of Shaina's wings from the left and right. Facing the two attackers, the color of the flame behind Shaina changed, becoming the same blue as Jin. The two trained with different focuses, but they were from the same clan after all, so some fundamental things were the same, such as the control of the abilities of the Lunarians. Jin could do it, and Shaina could do it too. In the blue flame mode plus the red chain, in addition to the mega amplification, Shaina was also in full firepower mode. If Jin hadn't brought the racial honor when he swore, Shaina wouldn't have entered this state at the beginning, but after Jin said that, everything was different. Clang, clang, the two's attacks hit Shaina, but they had no effect. The defense of the Lunarians in the blue flame mode was very terrifying, and with their abilities, it was very difficult to break through the defense. Very good, let's start with you two. The red chains turned into two fists in Shaina's hands, and the blue flames drew a graceful arc in the air, harvesting the two people in front of her like the scythe of the god of death. Shaina got rid of all the people who were in the way, leaving enough space for Jin and Blackbeard, and Jin did not live up to the fighting space created by Shaina for him, slashing at Blackbeard with heavy blows, intending to behead him directly. Dark water. The dark power gathered in the palm of his hand, and Blackbeard barely grabbed Jin's blade and absorbed the flames released by Jin. Wait, I think we can talk. There is no need to make it a situation of life and death. In order to survive, Blackbeard will do anything, even kneeling down and calling him daddy. As long as he can survive, he will have a chance to get back. He thinks he is not Jin's opponent. When Kaido refuses to cooperate, he wants to use his words to persuade Jin to change his target, especially after seeing the same blue flames burning on Shaina. He seems to have figured out something. There are no two identical abilities in this world, and you are siblings. Jin didn't listen to Blackbeard's nonsense and kicked him in the chest, kicking him away while flying forward again, raising his knife to chop at Blackbeard's neck, but Blackbeard barely dodged it by rolling over. I've heard people say before that in the past Red Earth continent, there was a legendary tribe of gods. They had white hair and black wings, and the blazing flames allowed them to survive in any environment. They were truly a tribe of gods. Today, 2 and 4, the first two times, 4 was not mentioned, so it doesn't count. Quibble. Chapter 986, Soul Level Destruction. Blackbeard endured the pain and spoke out the information he had analyzed. Now he didn't even have the chance to cry out in pain and had to seize every second. I have a plan. A plan that is enough to subvert the entire world. At that time, it will definitely satisfy your need for revenge. Killing me is meaningless to you, and I'm more valuable alive. Begging for mercy is also a technical job. Facing different enemies, the way of begging for mercy will also change. In the original timeline, when facing Whitebeard, Blackbeard would shout out shameless words, like I'm also your son. Although he has violated the iron rule of the Whitebeard pirates and Whitebeard will not let him go, he understands Whitebeard's character, and that moment of hesitation can be regarded as saving his life. It's just that he and Jin don't have such a relationship. If recognizing him as his father can make Jin stop, Blackbeard is not impossible to consider, but Jin's crazy attitude obviously doesn't intend to pay attention to him. At this time, Blackbeard urgently needs a reason for the other party to stop. If his guess is correct, Jin and the world government have an irreconcilable feud. This is Blackbeard's last chance in his heart. The outside world doesn't know much about the Lunarians, but it's not completely unknown. Whitebeard himself has heard about the Kingdom of God and has mentioned it to some of his sons. When the ability was only half effective on Jin, Blackbird didn't think about it in this way. After all, there was the example of Drake before. But with the appearance of Shaina, the two people's two similar powers made Blackbird suspicious. The dark fruit is not always ineffective, but sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It can be confirmed that the beasts have some power that can ignore the dark fruit, such as Quinn's mysterious technology that is circulated in the outside world. The power of the devil fruit is obviously sealed in Jin, and the remaining power is naturally his own power. The powerful fire defense, the wings that soar in the sky, and the true face that is unwilling to show to others. All of this makes Blackbird believe in his judgment. Jin's attack paused for a moment, which made Blackbird feel that his words had worked. It's just an eye of a subordinate. It doesn't matter at all, right? That woman is not your kind at all. Why do you have to go to such lengths? Swoosh. The blade flashed, and several houses behind Blackbird were neatly split in half by Jin's sword energy. Blackbird's chest was also wrapped in darkness, and began to absorb the damage left by Jin. Ah. It hurts. You lunatic. Jin just didn't listen to him at all, but was just charging for his moves, and Blackbird suddenly noticed that Jin's expression seemed to be more ferocious than before. Now there is one more reason why you must die. I'm not threatening you. I also hate those people in the world government. Don't you want to live in the sun? Your captain is not that good either. He hasn't actually solved the problem for so many years. If you join me, I will be able to help you solve this problem soon. The darkness extinguished the flames attached to his body, and Blackbird's tone became more panicked. At this time, Jin put down his weapon. Hahaha, are you tempted? What I hate most is self-righteous guys like you. You don't know anything, but you dare to speak nonsense in such a place. Jin touched his back, and took out a new weapon. After our left last time, I was thinking about how to completely kill an alien like you. Your body is very tenacious, and few people I have met can compare with you, but I want to see if your soul is equally tenacious. The black and purple blade in Jin's hand was full of weirdness, and there was even a weird eye on the handle. Before leaving, he borrowed a sword from Kazuki Hiyori, Yanemo, which had long been transformed into a single scabbard. In order to completely kill Blackbird, an alien, Jin also included his soul in his killing range. Kazuki Hiyori had no objection when borrowing the sword, and even planned to give Jin Shianai to use them together, but Jin didn't want it. He was not a two-sword flow, and one Yanemo was enough for him. Jin's domineering aura was concentrated on his right hand holding Yanemo. The racial talent gave the Lunarians extremely high defense, so they could safely use all their domineering aura in battle. Yanemo is a sword that will release the user's domineering aura without authorization. The user can rely on this ability to exert a very powerful force, but if Yanemo cannot be tamed, it will be drained of domineering aura and die. After being transformed into a single sword sheath, Yanemo with a new consciousness can control this ability and will not drain the user at will, but the user can increase the input of domineering aura by himself, allowing Yanemo to exert greater power. Rock Lock Seal. 4 huge rocks fell from the sky, blocking the direction of Blackbird's movement. At the same time, the ground under Blackbird's feet seemed to have life, and several stone dragons made of rocks opened their mouths and bit Blackbird in front. The rock blockade restricts the movement space, and the power of the earth manipulates the ground below to control Blackbird's movement. The dark fruit can restrain the ability of the fruit, but it has no way to deal with objects that have already been generated, not to mention that this is a move used by Jin using the power of the fossil pterosaur. Blackbird needs time to absorb all those things into the dark space. This period of time is also enough to be fatal. Final Blade Flame Emperor. Blue flames attached to the blade of Yanemo, and a strange glow appeared on Jin's body. It was the precursor of the final impact. Like the destruction death beam, it was a very powerful and widely popular skill. It was a powerful move that Pokemon could use their bodies, but for Jin at this time, it was just a booster. The power of the final impact did not explode, but entered his hands under Jin's control, and Jin also grasped the handle of Yanemo with both hands at the same time. Arsehole. Stop it. Looking at Jin, who was ready to go, Blackbird's heart was filled with fear, and the haze of death enveloped his heart. The process seemed slow, but it was actually a matter of moment, and when Blackbird shouted this sentence, Yanemo's blade had pierced his chest and nailed him to the rock wall behind him. Until this time, Jin, who seemed to be accumulating power on the spot, slowly disappeared. It was not a substitute, but the afterimage left by Jin's too fast speed. Boom. Puff. A large amount of blood spurted out of Blackbird's mouth, mixed with a lot of blood and flesh fragments. The energy of the entire ultimate impact was compressed into the blade by the cinders just now, and it completely exploded in Blackbird's body. Even though he was an alien, his chest cavity had become blurry. No matter what kind of alien you are, no matter what your purpose is, you have to die here today. Chapter 987. Blackbird Pirates disbanded. At this time, the rock wall behind Blackbird was pierced by the aftermath of the ultimate impact. Through the holes in the rock, one can even see Jin's ferocious eyes. This is because Blackbird's chest has a hideous blood hole. The wound around the blood hole is charred black, and has been carbonized under the influence of Jin's flames. Blackbird's body is in a terrible state. The internal organs are seriously damaged, and the blood vessels near the wound are all ruptured. Even the best surgeons will feel helpless when facing Blackbird now. Every wound on his body is enough to be included in medical books. Most people would have died long ago if they had such a big hole in their chests. For example, Ace is an example. The temperature of Jin's blue flame is not inferior to Akainu's ordinary magma, but Blackbird is very special. The alien's physique is still maintaining Blackbird's life, and darkness is also surrounding his body, trying to save the host's life. Even though Blackbird's appearance is always accompanied by a setback, this is his worst time. It hurts so much. Bastard, you should be glad that you are a freak. I have countless ways to make people suffer without endangering their lives, but I don't want to use them on you. You'd better die obediently. As a torture master, Jin is very familiar with the structure of the human body and knows how to avoid vital organs. It is only an entry-level thing for him to stab dozens of knives without endangering his life. It's just that Blackbird's vitality is so tenacious that Jin feels outrageous, so he doesn't intend to use those methods. You lunatic. Blackbird raised his arm and wanted to grab Jin, but he couldn't touch Jin at all. Jin was 6.13 meters tall, half a head taller than Blackbird, who was less than 3.5 meters tall. Although many people in this world have a body structure like an alien, there are many people with uncoordinated limbs, such as Jack's lower body is slightly short. But this does not include Jin. Jin's body is relatively well proportioned, which leads to his arm span far exceeding Blackbird. Coupled with the length of Yanemo himself, Blackbird can only touch the air. How can my dream end here? You can't kill me. Dark frenzy. A strong dark gravitational force suddenly appeared in Blackbird's hand, trying to grab Jin in front of him into his hand. Although the gravitational force was strong, it lasted for a short time. Before the ability could take effect, the darkness in Blackbird's hand had dissipated. Jin's blade had left Blackbird's body at this time. Jin did not pull out the blade, but slashed it diagonally downward, directly cutting off most of Blackbird's body. Then he turned the blade and slashed upward again, dividing Blackbird into 4 equal parts, but the division was not quite even. But even so, Blackbird's head could still scream. Shocking vitality, but no one is unkillable, and you are the same. Whoosh. Yama pierced from Blackbird's forehead. When Jin just pulled out Yama and cut Blackbird into several pieces, Blackbird's body had already scattered on the ground. As Jin thrust forward, Blackbird's brain was pierced again. The armament haki penetrated Blackbird's skull and smashed it to pieces, which made Blackbird completely speechless. Yanemo, it's up to you next. A strange sound of sword came from Yanemo's blade, as if responding to Jin's request. Dark purple energy scattered from Yanemo's blade, dancing up and down around Blackbird's body scattered on the ground. People nearby felt a chill in their bodies and heard several shrill screams. Hellfire Dragon King. Then Jin's flames turned into 2 blue dragons, spewing flames at Blackbird's scattered bodies. With a burst of burnt smell, they were blown away by the sea breeze, leaving only a few charred traces on the ground. Destroy his soul, destroy his body, and eliminate his traces. Jin didn't believe that Blackbird would not die like this. The body was hit by his ultimate impact and slash, and then the body was torn into pieces. After the brain was pierced, not even a slag was left. Even the so-called soul was slashed and devoured by Yanemo. It can be said that it is deader than dead. If it still can't be killed, Jin can only go back to pray to the gods. that is beyond the scope of human beings. Yanemo sword sound has not stopped yet. Jin even sensed a trace of joy from it, and it seems that he has eaten very delicious nutrients. Finally solved, but this guy knows a lot of things. Jin looked at the remnants of the Blackbird pirates. He didn't respond to anything Blackbird said just now, but it is undeniable that Blackbird does have a certain understanding of the Lunarians. There are many people who know about the Lunarians. After all, they are special bounty criminals who can get a huge reward for providing information. However, not many people know that Jin and Shaina are Lunarians. Kaido, Arceus, Quinn, Zerora, these are the people whose identities have been personally acknowledged by their siblings among the beasts. Even Yamato only knows that they are a rare race. Others may have some guesses, but there is no solid evidence. Charlotte Linlin is an example. She has some guesses about the identities of Jin and Shaina, but Charlotte Linlin will not report to the world government. She would rather have a child with a Lunarian. This is at least a semi-friendly unit, so it's okay to leave it alone for the time being, but the people in the Blackbird pirates are different. Who knows if Blackbird said anything he shouldn't have said before he died. To be safe, it's safer to kill them all. At the same time, other members of the Blackbird pirates also saw Blackbird's miserable condition, but none of them were sad about it. Meow ha 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 ha, that guy Teach is dead. From now on, the Blackbird pirates will be renamed the Pizarro Pirates. I'll be your captain. As soon as Blackbird died, Pizarro was ready to take over his position as captain, but no one agreed to his request. Dopu, stop kidding, Pizarro. Who wants to let a cat-like bastard like you be the captain? You were the most enthusiastic about that bastard Teach before. Are you going to betray me so soon? Basquiat responded to Pizarro's words with disdain, but his eyes were constantly looking around, planning his next move. Stop talking nonsense. The Blackbird pirates are disbanded now, and it's up to you to go wherever you want. But before that, solve the trouble in front of you first. Shiryu scolded these pirates. Although he was imprisoned by Magellan, his status and treatment did not change. He could get newspapers from the outside world every day and see information about the outside world. Unlike those who have not seen the sun for many years, he knows better what terrible monsters Shaina and Jin are in front of him. Chapter 988 Domination of the Sea. Even if Shiryu didn't say anything, they knew how terrifying Jin was. For the team that Blackbird had first formed, Jin killed Vanoka in front of all of them when they were trading with the Navy, and killed Stolberry in front of Blackbird, Teotu and Huashe Ocean. If Kuzan hadn't arrived in time, the voyage of the Blackbird pirates might have ended at that time. Shaina's record was not so brilliant, but she had dealt with Kizaru many years ago, not to mention that when Jin just killed Blackbird, Shaina also showed a crushing attitude towards them. Now everyone here knows that the two monsters in front of them are not easy to deal with, but it is not an easy task to let them join forces. The nature of the Blackbird pirates and the Rocks pirates is very similar. Most of the members have no friendship, and they only gather together because of the captain. When the captain is alive, they will work together, but when the captain dies, these people will become birds and beasts. At most, some people will choose to join forces with a companion. Ordinary battles are fine, but in this kind of life and death battle, no one in the Blackbird pirates will leave their backs to their so-called companions. If abandoning their companions would allow them to escape smoothly, they would have done so long ago. But Jin and Shaina are both good at aerial combat, and with the unpredictable chains in Shaina's hands, escaping rashly is to die. I have also heard about the specifics from Blackbird. We joined him more to leave Impel down, and we are not deeply connected with him. Now that he is dead, there is no conflict between us. How about we leave separately? Looking at Shaina in the sky and Jin approaching gradually, Zilliu put forward his own suggestions. He did not want to fight such a meaningless battle here. Coming here was originally Blackbird's plan. According to Blackbird's plan, the vibration that destroyed everything and the darkness that swallowed everything would form his spear and shield. But now that Blackbird is dead, there is no point for Zilliu and his group to stay. Zilliu likes to kill, but he does not like to seek death. When he was in Impel Down, his target of killing was also the prisoners who had no power to fight back. He dared not provoke those real monsters in the 6th city. Even if that kind of person is wearing ceased and chains, he can still pose a great threat to Shiryu. When Shiryu was speaking, neither Basquiat nor Pizarro spoke. Even Deppen, who had an old conflict with the beasts, also chose to keep silent. After finally regaining their freedom, leaving smoothly was their best solution. This is the headquarters of the Navy. I don't know why you came here, but if you want to kill Blackbird, you have already succeeded. No one can survive in that situation. There is no need to fight meaninglessly. Flame Emperor. A ball of fire was thrown at Shiryu by Jin. The exploding flames made Shiryu retreat a few steps and his expression became nervous. Although Blackbird was also frustrated when he first met him, and Magellan's poisonous dragon almost wiped them out, Shiryu still recognized Blackbird's strength. His performance on the 6th floor of the undersea prison was not something that ordinary people could do. Now the stronger Blackbird has been killed by Jin. They are not the opponents of these two people, not to mention that there is a covetous Kaido behind them. It should be solved this time, right? Of course, but these guys may know something they shouldn't know. For the sake of safety, let them disappear. Then let's do it. Do you or do I? Let's do it together. The tricks taught by Brother Kaido are sometimes quite useful. After all, there is a big guy here. In a few words, Jin and Shaina had arranged the remnants of the Blackbird pirates in front of them, and they did not hide it at all. They were loudly conspiring in front of everyone. This was tantamount to an insult to Shiryu and others. They were also famous characters on the sea, but now they were treated like ants and their lives and deaths were arranged at will. I just don't want to fight with you. Don't go too far. Dopu, Dopu, Dopu. Now that it's said so, then we can only fight, right? Basquiat took the wine gourd behind him and started drinking in front of everyone. Basquiat, nicknamed Dejiu, is the user of the superhuman wine fruit ability. He always looks drunk. Due to long-term alcoholism, his nose is always red, and with the clown-style hat, Basquiat looks very close to a clown. Then he behaves in a way that is even closer to a clown. His wine gourd is like a bottomless pit. No matter how much he drinks, he can never finish it. After a large amount of strong liquor entered his body, he spit out a series of alcohol bubbles in the direction of Jin and Shaina. Purgatory wine sea. Bang, bang, bang. The alcohol bubbles all shattered, and at the moment of shattering, Shaina and Jin turned into a sea of fire. Idiot. What's the point of burning them with fire? Basquiat's attack made Zilliu on the side couldn't help cursing. How could two people who have been bathing in flames be afraid of fire? This sea of fire has no meaning at all, except to prevent them from getting close. Dopu, haven't you read the information and impel down? My ability releases a large amount of ethanol. As long as the amount is large enough, the two of them will get drunk. Evil Wolf. Stop looking at me, hurry up. Evil Wolf has a special ability that always marginalizes himself. People around him often forget this person inexplicably until they can remember him at a critical moment. Evil Wolf's size is his most powerful weapon. At the call of Basquiat, he also raised his fist and smashed it down. Other members of the Blackbird pirates also made their own attacks. However, in the sea of fire released by Jot, Jin and Shaina were not affected at all. Not only did the flames fail to harm them, but they did not get drunk as Jot imagined. He underestimated the physical resistance of the Lunarians without knowing the information. It is no joke that they can survive in any environment. At this time, the two stood together, and their weapons had crossed together. The domineering aura of the two was constantly injected into their weapons. While the evil wolf attacked, they also swung their blades. Have they really mastered this skill? They are worthy of being my valued subordinates and Arceus's right-hand men. Kaido on the side, smiled at the combined attack of Jin and Shaina. This attack was none other than the giant's move that he learned from Charlotte Linlin. Sea Domination. Chapter 989. Watching their domination of the sea, that was my lost youth, Zephyrs' choice. The shout of Beihei reached Kaido's ears, and at that moment, Kaido seemed to see himself when he was young. When he was on the ship of rocks, Charlotte Linlin taught him a lot of things, which was an indispensable part of his growth process. The speed of growth is completely different with a teacher, and without a teacher. The people on the ship of rocks are not loyal. With the permission of rocks, fights between crew members often occur. This is also an opportunity to improve their own strength, survive the battle, and then repeat the process. As long as they don't die, they will always become stronger. But Charlotte Linlin is different. She really teaches. From the day she boarded the ship, she told Kaido that Rox was not trustworthy and he could ask her if he had any questions. Later, she taught Kaido a lot of things at the bottom of the box, including the Elbaf Spear of the Giants. Elbaf is recognized as the world's #1 power. They have a strong foundation, and this giant's moves are one of them. This move was originally derived from the size of the giants. There are only a handful of people who have the opportunity and talent to learn it. Thanks to Charlotte Linlin, Kaido is one of them. However, as time goes by, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin have parted ways, and that experience is destined to be replayed only in memory. After the establishment of the Beast's Pirates, Kaido did not hide his skills. As long as he liked someone, he would not keep any skills or moves. Kaido is definitely the well-deserved #1 instructor of the Beasts. Not many people can learn this move, and only Jin and Shaina have successfully learned it and practiced the combination of sea domination by themselves. Yes, Kaido just told them the idea and gave guidance on the side, and the rest depended on Shaina and Jin themselves. It takes tacit understanding to perform this move. Kaido can't find other suitable partners, and he doesn't want to find Charlotte Linlin, so he can only use this method. In fact, he wanted to teach Yamato. With Yamato's talent, the power of this combination skill with him in the future will definitely be greater than that of Charlotte Linlin. It's just that Yamato didn't refuse when she practiced alone. When she heard that she was going to practice a joint attack with Kaido, she ran faster than the wind speed dog. She resisted this strange thing from the bottom of her heart. Yamato felt chilled just thinking about practicing a joint attack with Kaido, and finally let it go. The magnificent wave roared out in an instant, and the wave swept everything in front of it in an instant, blasting towards the pirates of the Blackbird Pirates, and the first to suffer was the wolf. His body was big enough, but the spear of Elbaf was aimed at large targets, and the combined attack of the sea was even more so. The combined attack of the Bago of Dangli and Brocky could easily destroy the island-eating monster that was larger than the island, and the size of the wolf was really nothing. The wave swept everything in front of it and rushed to the distance. The air was stirred up to make a blast and form a strong wind. Sanju and Wolf, who was hit by Tyrant, flew backwards and crashed into the building of the Navy headquarters before appearing in the square of Marineford. What is that? It's bigger than Oz. I haven't heard of it, but what knocked him down? What's behind it? He's wearing a prison uniform? What kind of monster ran out of Impel Down? Both the Navy and the pirates were shocked by the figure of Wolf. He was too big. With his terrifying size, even if he did nothing, just stepping on the ground would be enough to cause huge casualties. However, such a big giant lost an arm out of thin air, and he had lost consciousness and fainted on the ground, which made people more curious about the guy who knocked him down. Jin and Shaina put away their weapons. There was nothing in front of them, only dust kept falling on the ground. The fire released by Jot had long been extinguished, and the people of the Blackbird Pirates were buried in the ruins. The tyrant is not so easy to deal with. Even with the aura and faction buff, Zoro suffered shattered bones and entered a near-death state after taking the tyrant attack from Kaido and Charlotte Linlin 1 second later. The Red Lion was directly wiped out by the tyrants of Turi and Broky. The weaker ones, such as Badgers and Poison Q, died directly under the tyrant attack of Jin and Shaina. The others were seriously injured, if they didn't die. If it weren't for the huge size of Sanju and Wolf, which caused him to eat the sharpness of the tyrant, the others would have been even worse. After all, the human body is the strongest defense in this world. From the tyrant of the tyrant and Akainu to ordinary bullets and slashes, the human body can always block them. It's really like a real person. I feel like I'm getting younger. The damn bastard actually interfered with my fight. Thinking of this, Kaido suddenly hated Blackbird. If this guy hadn't interfered with his fight, he should be able to fight happily now. As for Sengoku and Ziva, the two did not log off. This period of time was enough for Sengoku to catch his breath. He stood up again and looked in the direction of Kaido. Kaido of Beasts. This guy's threat has exceeded Whitebird. Younger than Whitebird, able to fly freely, and doing things without any taboos. Such Kaido's threat in the eyes of Sengoku has risen sharply. Originally, Kaido gave outsiders the illusion that they could talk, and the transaction of the beasts made the upper echelons think that this group of forces was relatively stable. But Kaido told Sengoku with his own behavior that those were all fake. We have to find a way to keep him. If we let this madman go back to the sea, there will probably be no chance in the future. Old man, can you still fight? I'm fine, but your body was affected a lot. I may not be able to take care of you in the future. Damn Blackbird, it's all this trouble that this guy caused. Thinking of Blackbird, Zangiuo couldn't help cursing. On the one hand, he attacked him by surprise. On the other hand, according to Magellan's report, if it weren't for Blackbird, these prisoners would not have been able to escape on a large scale. Moreover, if Blackbird hadn't captured Ace, Strawberry might not have died, and the war on the top would have been meaningless. The world government was simply fooled by Blackbird. Don't underestimate me, I'm also a former admiral of the navy. Looking at the broken Marineford, Zephyrs inner fighting spirit seemed to be rekindled, and before Zangiuo noticed, Zephyr took out a sealed jar and put it into the crusher on his right arm. The jar was filled with unknown liquid, in which a piece of rock of strange color was soaked. Under the illumination of its light, a strange purple light was looming. This is not an ordinary stone, but one of the banned items controlled by the world government, Dynamite Rock. Chapter 990, Death Will, Final Justice. Explosive rock, also known as dynamic rock, is a seemingly ordinary rock that contains extremely terrifying energy. It is an absolute controlled item on the sea. This kind of rock will explode when it comes into contact with oxygen or is directly hit by a huge impact. The power of the explosion is said to be comparable to that of ancient weapons. The power generated by the explosion of a fist-sized explosive rock can flatten an island. Because of its terrifying power, only the top naval officials are qualified to decide the use of these things. Zephyr is one of them. He did not retire, but retained his military rank and became an instructor. He still has the authority to touch this thing. At this time, Zangiuo also saw the explosive rock in Zephyr's hand. Zephyr? Are you crazy? What are you going to do with this thing? What? Of course, it's to deal with pirates. The power of this thing. Do you want to blow up the entire Marineford? Zangiuo knew the power of the explosive rock very well. If this thing exploded, the entire Marineford would probably be destroyed. Not to mention the ordinary soldiers on the island. Even if there was no one on the island, he didn't want to use this thing. Otherwise, after the war, the entire Marineford was destroyed. Who knows what would happen if the news got out. If it was that easy, he could just bury the explosive rock in Marineford and wait for Whitebird to come. It is not certain whether this thing can kill high-level combat power, but ordinary soldiers will definitely not be able to withstand the aftermath. Isn't Whitebird's damage to Marineford big enough? Whether to use this or not, Marineford has been almost destroyed, and this piece is not that big. It will not destroy the entire island. No, I don't agree. This thing is useless. The three of them have the ability to fly. It is unrealistic to rely on explosive rocks to defeat them, not to mention that they have the ability of the suspected barrier fruit. As a marine admiral, Sengoku also knows a lot about the scientific forces. In the report, the word bloodline factor is what he sees the most. According to the current intelligence, a certain Quinn used Kaido's body as a model and used his bloodline factor to develop a large number of mythical beast abilities. However, in the eyes of the Navy, the most troublesome thing is not fire or lightning, but the bloodline factor from the barrier fruit. This skill is too buggy. The extremely strong defense can work wonders at critical moments. The only good news is that this technology seems to be imperfect. If used continuously, it will be easier to break. These are the lessons learned by the Navy with blood. There is a heavy price behind every piece of intelligence. Kaido used that move in the battle just now. According to past intelligence, the stronger the user, the stronger the defense of the barrier. Sengoku also doesn't know where the upper limit of Kaido's barrier is, and whether the explosive rock can be blown up. If this is not done well, it will hurt his own people. So I need your help. First, find a way to trick the barrier out once. And don't you have a restrictive move? Use that to restrict me and them to the same area. I will directly detonate the explosive rock inside. In that kind of space, the explosive rock should have a stronger effect. Are you going to die with them? Things haven't come to that point yet. Zephyr, calm down. There's no need to go to this extent with these guys. Sengoku had already discovered a more bizarre problem. The purpose of the Beasts and Whitebeard's group was completely different. The Whitebeard pirates were fighting the navy to death, but the Beasts were more like playing. These people could obviously cause more damage if they were serious, but they didn't do that. Jin and Shaina only used their true strength when fighting the Blackbeard pirates. It can even be said that they helped the navy clear some hidden dangers. Although Kaido was fighting with him, it didn't have much impact. With Garp there, it was difficult for him to take it seriously. Quinn was fighting the Shichibuke, but the Shichibuke were more for show, and now it was within expectations. It would be better to say that Sengoku should thank Quinn for not using those weird weapons of mass destruction. Sengoku didn't know how hard Quinn tried not to continue to attract attention. Looking closely, only Yamato held back Kuzan, occupying a high-end combat power. In addition, there were many deals with the world government behind the Beasts, and Sengoku didn't want to fight like this under such circumstances. Sengoku, have you become the same as those guys? What did you say? Trading with pirates, and having expectations for pirates, is there anything more stupid than this? The former black-armed Zephyr was known as the Admiral of the Navy who did not kill. At that time, he never killed pirates, but only captured them. But in the days that followed, his family was killed by pirates. He was disheartened and devoted himself to education, but his students also could not escape the bad luck. When he led the team for the last time, there were only 2 survivors on the ship except him. Easygoing people tend to become more extreme after a breakdown. The former admiral who never killed has long disappeared. After Zephyr's pirate guerrillas were established, his attitude towards pirates has only one: to destroy them. In the original timeline, after the war on the top, in order to fill the vacancy of the 7 warlords of the sea, the world government actually recruited the pirates who cut off his arm and killed his apprentice. This made Zephyr completely disheartened and planned the ultimate plan to destroy all pirates. Zephyr hasn't reached that point yet, but his hatred for pirates is not much different. Ahem. Cough. When he got excited, Zephyr took out the potion again and took a deep breath before he calmed down. Sengoku, you've seen that I'm different from you and Garp. My health has been declining. In another year or 2, I'm afraid I won't be able to maintain my current level. You can go and recuperate. Don't talk nonsense. I know my own body well. I can't hold on for a few more years. Although I can't stand those guys in the world government, I'm also a navy. Instead of dying in bed, it's better to fight a big battle and fight for the navy again. Kuzan, Sakazuki, and Borsalino, who I don't like very much, these young people have grown up, and an old guy like me can't do anything else. This is the headquarters of the navy, a symbol of justice, and the place where I have fought all my life and want to practice my own justice. Let this be my end. Kaido and Whitebeard are both the most threatening pirates in the new world. On the front battlefield, the fierce battle between Whitebeard and Akainu and Kizaru is still going on. If these 2 guys can be kept in Marineford, it will be a big victory for the navy. The death of the Tussie emperors will certainly deal a heavy blow to the pirates' arrogance. As long as this goal can be achieved, huge casualties are acceptable. It can be said that Zephyr has been determined to die since he set foot on this battlefield. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 991, The Awakening Buddha, The End of Zephyr. Why, old man, you're not scared, are you? How is that possible? I'm also a Marine Admiral. If that's the case, let's go crazy. Stratagems have a great impact on war, provided that the opponent is not a monster like Kaido who has no scruples, and whose individual strength is off the charts. If you want to defeat such a monster, you can only find a way to defeat it head on with hard power. Seeing that Zephyr had made up his mind, Sengoku did not continue to dissuade him. This was a battle chosen by an old soldier. Sengoku had no reason to stop him from risking his life to eliminate the pirates. Looking at Zephyr and Sengoku walking towards him, Kaido stopped. He wanted to see what was going on with Whitebird, but he didn't expect that the two marines had no intention of giving up. I'm no longer interested in you now. Don't be so arrogant, pirates. This is Marineford, a battlefield. Do you think it's a game of playing house as you please? Sengoku threw away the coat of justice on his body, and the strong muscles of his upper body were exposed. His body began to swell continuously, and a huge golden Buddha appeared in Marineford. Several halos flickered behind the golden Buddha's body, and there were flames like lotuses surrounding the outside of his body. Human fruit big Buddha form awakening. Ugh, thank you for reminding me. It's been a long time since I've seen such a great battlefield. I almost forgot that this is a war. There are many better targets to choose from, but Kaido ignored the essence of war. This is not a game, but a place for life and death. Looking at the once again Buddha-like Sengoku and the determined Zephyr, Kaido also put away his playful thoughts and prepared for a battle. Facing a real opponent, giving him death, and letting him die in battle with dignity is Kaido's respect. At the same time, a halo rose up behind Sengoku and gradually expanded in the sky, finally covering Kaido, Jin and others, and finally forming a hemispherical light curtain. Even the ground was covered by the golden light emitted by Sengoku. This is the ability of Sengoku that Zephyr just mentioned. With the power of the great Buddha fruit, Sengoku can create a special space that is isolated from the outside world, like an independent domain. The faint golden light is a special power as strong as his Buddha body. With this, Sengoku can use a restrictive skill that is much more powerful than Doflamingo's birdcage. In this space, the power of the explosive rock can be better exerted, reducing the impact on the outside world, while causing higher damage to the internal targets. Interesting. Are you afraid that I will run away? Don't worry, since you still want to fight, then I will accompany you to the end, but don't expect me to stop halfway this time. You'd better be prepared to die, otherwise it will be boring. Kaido, who had already lifted the transformation, entered the human beast form again, with flames surrounding his body, and Kaido seemed to have seen something interesting. The corners of his mouth gradually rose, and the smile on his face became more obvious. Jin, Shaina, protect yourselves, and don't interfere with my fight. No matter what happens, leave me alone. Brother Kaido, you. Just watch, Jin. Don't be like Quinn and Yamato, always making me worry about this kind of thing. Yes, I understand. After exchanging a glance with Shaina, Jin and Shaina flew into the sky and finally stopped at the edge of the golden light curtain. Do you want to break it? Shaina measured the light curtain twice. If necessary, it would not be difficult for the red chain in her hand to break this thing. Forget it. Brother Kaido said not to disturb him, so this should also be part of the battle. Then never mind, but the people on the origin just sent me a message that the holy beasts are not far from here. It will be bad if we delay too long. So soon. Otherwise, the holy beasts have already got what they need, and the battle situation with Olga and Jack is also going smoothly. Although there is a problem with Zorora, it has been resolved. Now only Mr. Kaido is left, and this war seems to be endless. It seems that the people on Whitebird's side have not been rescued yet. Do you think they can succeed? I don't know. The hero Garp is not easy to deal with. It depends on how far he can go. The Blackbird pirates were directly dispersed under their combined attack on the sea, and those who were not dead were also seriously injured. Now the ruins are also covered by the light curtain of the warring states, so they are not anxious. It is unknown whether these people can survive the aftermath of the battle. Kaido can remind them to be careful, and the next battle situation will not be easy, no matter how you look at it. Buddha's impact. Sengoku's right palm slapped Kaido, and the huge shockwave temporarily stopped Kaido's body. Zephyr's crusher also hit Kaido's face. But Kaido's performance was very strange. He obviously had other ways to block, but he directly used defense. Come on, don't stand there, let me see your trump card. I've cooperated with you so much, are you still hesitating? Zephyr in his prime can still arouse Kaido's interest, but this old and sick Zephyr can no longer satisfy Kaido in battle. Even with the Seaston weapon, it can only make him pay a little attention. He made this move because he saw some situations from the prediction of the future. You will regret it, Kaido. Kaido's behavior did not dispel Zephyr's determination. The wrist of his left hand turned black and hit Kaido in front of him. When colliding with Kaido's fist, the crusher had already crushed the device outside the explosive rock. When it came into contact with oxygen, the pressure of the mechanical arm was also applied to the explosive rock. Purple light filled with the threat of death emerged from Zephyr's crusher, but Zephyr did not throw it out, but held it, and faced Kaido in front of him. Zephyr's action was beyond Sengoku's expectation. He thought Zephyr would treat the thing as a bomb and throw it away quickly, but Zephyr chose to grab it and force it to Kaido's face, not wanting to leave Kaido any chance to resist. Boom. Boom. The explosion of the explosive rock triggered a vast purple torrent. The purple energy wave surged in the area created by Sengoku and quickly filled the area. Limited by Sengoku's ability, the residual power of the explosion had nowhere to vent, and could only accumulate continuously, and gradually reached the upper limit of Sengoku's ability. So the second explosion also came, but under the influence of Sengoku's ability, the aftermath only gushed upwards, and did not spread to the surroundings. After Sengoku's moves were broken, the entire Marineford saw the terrifying purple mushroom cloud, and under Buggy's broadcast, it was successfully transmitted to the world. Ahem, that's a really big noise. Shaina in the sky removed her defensive barrier, and then she coughed several times because of choking. Jin beside her was not idle either, and her wings fanned a storm to disperse the smoke and dust from the explosion below. At the center of the explosion, Kaido and Zephyr stood there motionless. The crusher on Zephyr's right arm had disappeared, and his entire right arm had become nothing, but his body was still upright, and maintained the posture of punching just now. Kaido in front of him suddenly moved. He stretched out his hand to wipe the corner of his mouth, looked at the blood on his arm, and laughed again. It's really powerful. This kind of attack is decent. The continuous use of the guard will not fail, but it will reduce the success rate. However, Kaido did not use the guard or other defensive methods just now, but used his body to block the explosion of the explosive rock. Even Zephyr, who has no power, dares to use the explosive rock like this. Kaido naturally doesn't want to back down. Facts have proved that the power of this thing is strong enough, but it is still far from enough. You are a qualified warrior. Kaido raised the mace again, intending to give Zephyr in front of him the final blow, but suddenly stopped his action. It was not because he was soft-hearted, but because it was unnecessary. Zephyr was hit by the explosion of the explosive rock at close range. He did not have the blessing of the animal system, and his physical condition was not good. Although he was still standing, he had already lost his vital signs. Chapter 992, The Haze on the Holy Land, The Arrival of Arceus and Red Hair. Dead. What a pity. Kaido did not do anything to the dead Zephyr. He still recognized such an opponent. He just picked up his wine gourd and started to drink. He cried regardless of the occasion while drinking. It seemed that he was remembering this opponent, but more regretting his own battle. Kaido was a person who easily lost control of his emotions. The two battles were not perfect for him. First, Blackbird messed up the situation, and then Zephyr's body could not hold on, which always gave him a feeling of wanting more. Especially Zephyr. From the results of the battle, Kaido won, but from the process of the battle, it is impossible to directly determine Zephyr's failure. The enemy died in this way, which was something Kaido was very upset about. At this time, Sengoku slapped Kaido's chest with one palm. Kaido, who was in a state of emotional out of control, did not react, so Sengoku hit him firmly on the chest, and the dragon man's body was also slapped away. Looking at the dead Zephyr, Sengoku's face, which was like a Buddha, also had a few more traces of sadness. But he was not occupied by sadness, but continued to attack Kaido. The explosion of the explosive rock had some effect. If he did not continue to fight now, Zephyr's sacrifice would be in vain. The Buddha and the Dragon Man continued to fight, and the battlefield in front of them also entered a white-hot stage. Oz opened the way to the execution platform with his own body. He was as strong as a hill and finally fell to the ground under the siege of the navy, but his body also paved the way to the execution platform. Garp was unable to make up his mind after all, and released the entire Grand Line on Luffy, and was knocked out by a punch. However, Luffy, who did not have the key, could not open the chain of the Seaston. He could only destroy the execution platform and let Ace escape with the chain first to find the royal locksmith. The whitebird pirates, who had completed their goal, did not fight and began their own retreat, but the Navy did not want them to leave. In this case, the war at the top would be a failure, so the Navy began their own pursuit. Even the big explosion behind Marineford didn't attract them. Many people were already bloodthirsty. The only thing on their minds now was to kill more enemies. But on the battlefield, there was a group of very special people. They wore uniform white suits and shuttled around the battlefield. However, they neither treated the wounded nor attacked the pirates or the Navy. They just held the den mushy and reported the situation. They were CP0 sent by the world government, and their only job was to report the battle situation in a timely manner. At this moment, messages continued to appear in front of the world government officials with the reports of CP0. These officials were the secretaries of the 5 elders. They would filter out some unimportant information for them and report the more important ones to them. The newly formed Flying Dragon unit of the Navy was severely damaged. Those flying dragons were much worse than the original monster. It seemed inappropriate to invest so much. The Air Force still has advantages, but it's just a little worse overall. The casualties of the Navy are acceptable, but Zephyr is dead. Let that guy die. Anyway, he is not a likable guy. It's just that his seniority is too high. There are too many of his students in the Navy. It's better for such a person to die. Regarding Zephyr's death, the people of the world government did not mourn or feel sad, but applauded. There are many people among these people who don't like Zephyr. After all, what Zephyr did is not in their interests. Akainu and Kizaru are still fighting Whitebird. That guy is too scary after he regained his youth. The power of restoration of youth. This power is too enviable. Speaking of Quinn, this is an opportunity. After all, Wano country failed. Their defense is too strong, and we got nothing. This is no longer something we can decide. Notify the 5 elders. After some insignificant information was filtered out, other information was delivered to the 5 elders, and at the top was the information about Quinn. The 5 elders did not look through these things. They already knew enough about Quinn. In a sense, Quinn was also famous. This is a good suggestion. It's only Quinn who has mastered the technology. Kaido is not as law-abiding as we thought. It seems not bad to be able to catch Quinn directly. Compared to Kaido, Quinn is already as weak as he can be. If we take this opportunity to capture Quinn, many problems will be solved. We can always get something out of him by coercion or inducement. The Holy Land needs to be protected. Now is a critical time. We can't leave the Holy Land, and we don't have the right people. Whitebird, Kaido, and Red Hair will arrive soon. Ordinary people are useless. Something big has happened on Judicial Island. Let's use that. In this situation, a small purge is also okay. There are too many factors of chaos. This is not a good thing. That is something that Lordim decides whether to use. But as servants, although we cannot replace Lordim, we are given some rights. I think now is the time. Let's start voting. Agree. Agree. Against. Agree. Again. 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 The decision was finally passed, and the 5 of them walked to another area together, discussing other things in the process. Off the coast of Marineford, the initial artillery battle still did not stop, but the purpose of the battle had changed again. Ace has been rescued. Rush in. Take everyone back to the new world! Exclamation mark. Stop them. These pirates can't get away without a ship. For justice, for the sacrificed comrades, destroy all these pirates. The artillery fire was roaring, and both sides were fighting for their own goals, but as the battle progressed, someone discovered something unusual. On the distant sea, a new pirate ship was gradually approaching Marineford. At the temporary command post of Marineford, Crane had taken over the command at this time, but the intelligence received was not optimistic, and the current situation was not smooth for the Navy. This is the Gate of Justice, now reporting that the origin of the Beast's pirates has appeared. The purpose is unknown, but they are approaching. Is it the Beasts again? Who is the leader? Yes, Arceus. Crane fell silent. One Kaido was enough for them to deal with. Now with the addition of a second in command, the situation would be even more difficult. But before Crane could make a decision, another piece of information came. Report. The Red Force appeared in Marineford. Leading the way is red-haired Shanks. The third Emperor of the Sea is here. Chapter 993, The Alternative Use of the Domineering Color, Quinn died together. What is red-haired Shanks doing here? This war is a terrible decision. Listening to the soldiers' reports, Churu felt a headache. There was nothing wrong with the arrangement of this war. If only the white-butt pirates came, then there would be no problem with their preparation. Even if most of the people did not work hard, it would be enough to achieve their strategic goals. But now, the situation of the war on the top has completely exceeded their control. First, Kaido and the rejuvenated Whitebird, and then the prisoners, in Impel Down, who appeared inexplicably. Those prisoners did not cause too much trouble, but they became the last straw that broke the camel's back. He couldn't stop one grandson from saving another grandson. Now that things have come to this point, even Red Hair has come. In addition to Big Mom, the Sea Emperor of the Navy headquarters can get together a magic table. The high-end combat forces of both sides can even play a game of Werewolf, and the content of Werewolf is also very special. Through debate, find out who is the traitor, who is slacking off, and who is paddling. I hope there is no so-called Three Emperors alliance, otherwise, the Navy headquarters can't stand it. Vice Admiral Churu. An emergency communication from Mirajoa. Our people are asked to stay away from Whitebird and Kaido immediately. Stay away. Yes, stay away. The extra troops can be concentrated around Quinn. That's what they said. The messenger didn't understand why the world government issued such an order, but just conveyed every word truthfully. They, the messengers, had only one request: to convey the order truthfully without any personal emotions, so as to prevent some strange orders from being passed. The 5 elders still had some sense. Although they planned to use some special means, they didn't plan to attack indiscriminately. They just wanted to target some people. They couldn't destroy the entire Marineford directly. In order not to hurt too many of their own people, they conveyed the order to the Navy, but that was all. If the time came, they would not care about the lives of the soldiers below. Vice Admiral Churu, what should we do? Let's convey the order first. I hope it's still in time. Churu knew very well that this was not a discussion, but a notice from the world government. If they couldn't respond in time, the world government would not stop. However, in a battlefield, where people are already killing each other, some things cannot be stopped just by saying so, especially in a battlefield with monsters, which cannot be passed just by wanting to go. Oh, here it comes. My godfather has finally finished his work. When the big explosion happened just now, Yamato flew to the sky, wanting to see what Kaido was doing so as to decide what to do next. As a result, she happened to see the approaching origin. Since the beginning of the battle, she has been thinking about a problem: how to get rid of the battle smoothly and make Kaido speechless. After thinking about it, she thought that the breakthrough point was Arceus. In the process of the battle just now, she released the freezing power in her body and used it to expand the ice layer near Marineford. There was only one purpose for doing this, which was to prevent the pirate ship from getting close. In this way, when the origin approaches, she can use the excuse of opening the way to get rid of the battle in front of her. As long as she reaches the origin, others will have no reason to let her continue to fight, and Kaido will have nothing to say at that time. The battle is almost over. What are you talking about? Do you think this is a game of house? But there is no point in you fighting me. Look over there. The Fire Fist and the Straw Hat have already run away. Why don't you go and catch them? Isn't that the purpose of your war? Or you can go and fight Whitebird. I don't want to fight you anymore. You are such a willful pirate to say such things. So, what is your decision? If you want to continue fighting, there is nothing I can do. Staring at Yamato in front of him, Kyuzen did not choose to continue fighting with her. Although she was a very terrifying fighting force, she had no intention of attacking ordinary navy, and she was indifferent to the outcome of the battle. The only thing she intervened was the safety of a beetle. Throughout the war, she was more like a hard-working worker who was forced to come to work. Compared with Yamato, other pirates were more troublesome. Kyuzen himself did not agree with this war. After confirming that Yamato was serious, he simply left here. Yamato also flew towards the origin as planned, but halfway through, she met someone who had the same idea as her. Uncle Quinn, why are you here? Be careful or I'll tell my father that you're slacking off and running away without a fight. Same here, isn't it the same for you, Miss Yamato? As a lazy duo of the beasts, the two had highly unified thoughts before the war. Before they came, they were competing for the guarding job of Wano country, and now they are competing for the task of opening the way. Quinn's idea was similar to Yamato's. He would help the origin to open the way, and then he could naturally mix in the origin, and thereby obtain the protection of Arceus, and get absolute safety. Miss Yamato, let me do this. How can I trouble you to do such a small thing? No, 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 my godfather said that we must be responsible for what we do. I froze the sea outside, so of course I have to solve it. There is no high-end combat power in the periphery. If they go alone, it can be said that they are paving the way for Arceus' origin. If they go with two people, it means that they have tried their best to fish. Quinn secretly reached behind his back and planned to activate some special weapons. Now that Arceus has come, he is not afraid of attracting attention. However, before he can do anything, Yamato's mace has been placed on his neck. Miss Yamato, what are you going to do? Don't move, Uncle Quinn. Wait until I finish the things at hand. As he said that, the domineering aura of the king burst out from his body, knocking down all the pirates and navy who might interfere with the progress of the origin along the way, and completed his own work of clearing the way. Looking at Yamato, who used Conqueror's Haki to clear out the miscellaneous soldiers, Quinn seemed to be in tears. He had a lot of weapons on him, but none of them were as fast as Yamato's Conqueror's Haki. This innate talent made him lose the qualification to compete. After achieving his goal, Yamato showed a smug look on his face, but he didn't notice that Quinn seemed to have made some kind of decision. A few minutes later, Quinn and Yamato appeared on the origin together. Although there was no work to clear the way, Quinn did not find someone else to play a fake match, but followed Yamato onto the origin. Uncle Quinn, what are you going to do? Father will think it's wrong. It doesn't matter, Miss Yamato. If that's the case, let's die together. Chapter 994, Falling Sky, God's Power. Yamato couldn't just hit Quinn with one blow. That wasn't her character. She had no other options when faced with Quinn, who started to play rogue after failing to snatch the fruit. Uncle Quinn, what are you trying to do? Aren't you paddling well with Hancock? Look at my mechanical hand. I have to replace it with a new one when I go back. Does it look good? The petrification of the fragrant foot and the light is different. At the same time, it is accompanied by the impact of Hancock's kick, which causes Quinn's mechanical hand to be broken. In fact, it's not that Hancock is too much, but that this fake match is not easy to beat. Her sweet fruit is also a rule-based ability. In a sense, the effect of petrification is even more terrifying than the childlike fruit. After the childlike fruit loses consciousness, the ability of the fruit will not be affected, but the sweet fruit is different. If Hancock petrifies, unless Hancock actively removes the ability, or the petrified person is domineering enough to be immune to the ability of the sweet fruit. Otherwise, even if Hancock is killed, the petrification will not be lifted. Even the second user of the sweet fruit cannot lift the petrification of the previous one. Although Quinn has developed a powerful armed color under the coercion of Kaido and external threats, he is not yet immune to Hancock's ability. The most important thing is that he is lustful. If it is a naive person with no desires, the sweet fruit will not be able to petrify at will, but Quinn is different. If Hancock changed his fighting style, Quinn might have turned into a stone statue and been packed away. This is a personality problem. Hancock's own ability just restrains Quinn with this personality. Then can't you change someone? Change someone? No, Miss Yamato, you have to trust my intuition. I feel like some dirty creature is targeting me, and it's safer around Lord Arceus. Then what about father? Miss Yamato, you are still young. I guess brother Kaido will not let me go with this record. Anyway, I can't escape. I must be unlucky. Haven't you heard of the legend about water ghosts in Wano country? Who will be more unlucky, you or me? It all depends on brother Kaido's mood. Maybe he will be satisfied with the fighting and forget about us all. Yamato didn't say anything, but just stared at Quinn, making Quinn feel creepy. Brother Kaido has this kind of personality. Miss Yamato, you should know that. I know, but Uncle Quinn, I will remember what happened today. Yamato, Quinn, what are you two talking about? Looking at Quinn and Yamato who were debating in the corner, Arceus called them and asked them to put the issue aside for the time being. At least before returning to Onigashima, Kaido would not do anything outrageous. Nothing, Godfather. I'm thinking about how to repay Uncle Quinn in the future. Repay? Forget it. Whatever you want, Quinn. What do those navy flags mean? Arceus would not interfere in private interpersonal relationships, and the fighting within the beasts had never stopped, but it was just a little bigger than the fighting outside. His attention was still on the battlefield. You can see that there are naval messengers waving flags in a high position, as if to convey some kind of signal. On this battlefield, ordinary communication methods are difficult to work. Although the Navy has a loudspeaker that can expand the sound to the entire Marineford, the enemy will also hear it, so the traditional flag signal method is adopted. The pirates didn't know this information originally, but because of Doflamingo, Virgo climbed to the position of Vice Admiral in the Navy, so it was not difficult to get the flag signal. Please wait a moment. All units should stay away from the enemy commander, quickly move away, and get out of the battle as soon as possible. What do these Navy want to do? Flipping through the small notebook on his body, Quinn quickly figured out the meaning of the Navy messenger, and as the order was conveyed, the Navy also moved again. There are always people who can notice the flag signal on such a large battlefield. After that, they will notify their colleagues around them, and finally complete the transmission of the message. At this time, the Navy has already moved. Except for a few people who are red-eyed, most of the Navy obeyed the order and began to stay away from those dangerous areas. This is also the difference between the Navy and most pirates. They execute orders more thoroughly. It's just that the battle has not stopped yet, and they are still fighting with other pirates. Sakazuki, there seems to be a new arrangement above, so stop for the time being. Kizaru looked a lot more embarrassed, and the justice coat behind him was gone. Seeing the order from the Navy General Staff, of course he would not choose to disobey. You retreat first, I'll talk later. Sakazuki. Akaina did not retreat immediately, but continued to fight with Whitebird. Faced with this situation, Kizaru also rejoined the battle. Both of them were natural types, so even if there was an emergency, they could handle it. The battle continued, but the sky began to change. The clouds seemed to be pulled by an unknown force, spinning in the sky like a whirlpool. The light gradually became dim, and a dark cloud enveloped Marineford. Ordinary people did not pay attention to the changes in the sky, but the stronger the person, the more they could detect abnormalities. Kizaru forced Whitebird to retreat with Yasakani no Magatama, and even Akainu did not continue to pursue, but just looked at the sky vigilantly. Even they had never experienced such a thing. At the same time, Sengoku, who was fighting Kaido, also distanced himself from Kaido. Looking at the center of the vortex in the sky, Kaido became very annoyed. Damn it, why are there always inexplicable things interfering with my battle today? Kaido angrily shot a hot breath into the sky, but Kaido's attack was like a drop in the ocean, and it did not cause any waves after entering the sky. On the origin, Yamato looked up at the sky. Her body was sending out danger signals, and what made her feel dangerous was the mysterious vortex in the sky. There seems to be something up there. Yamato, stand behind me. Yes, Godfather. Yamato didn't ask anything. She hadn't heard this sentence for many years. Only when she was a child, Arceus would tell her so, when she went out. After many years, the reappearance of this sentence was not good news for Yamato, which meant that Arceus thought that the things in the sky might pose a threat to her. Interesting. 800 years of foundation, there is still something. Above the sky, a terrifying eye seemed to open in the clouds, and the dazzling light illuminated the entire Marineford. The dazzling light made many people unable to open their eyes. At the same time, a thick and extremely strong light wave had also condensed. The air seemed to be distorted under the influence of this force. Looking from below, it seemed that there was some terrifying monster hiding in the sky, about to tear open the sky and pour out its anger. The next moment, the monster found its breakthrough. The distorted sky cracked a hideous gap, and an indescribable beam of terrifying light fell from the sky. During the fall, it split into several beams of light, searching for its target like a poisonous snake spitting out its tongue. The terrifying breath made the people below stop their steps and wait helplessly for the judgment above. The indescribable power made them have no courage. to resist in their hearts. The light curtain gradually descended, and the power of the sky falling down pressed on everyone's heart. The faces of the people below gradually turned pale under the light. Even if the signs of those light beams did not point to themselves, many people gave up struggling and just sat on the ground helplessly, waiting for the arrival of fate. But things were not as they expected. The destruction they imagined did not come. An equally powerful beam of light rose from the ground, stopping the attack from the sky in midair and even pushing it back bit by bit. Godfather, what is that? It may be an ancient weapon or some super weapon, but don't worry, it will be over soon. A burst of light shone on Kaien's wrist, and the power released by Arceus pushed it back completely. If you want to judge, this is far from enough. Boom. Buzz. Before the power completely dispersed, Arceus' attack pushed it back in midair and completely detonated it. A helium flash-like explosion occurred in the sky, and the light of death illuminated every corner. After the huge energy ball was detonated, the strong wind swept across the entire Marineford. Countless navy and pirates were blown away by this force, and those who were too close to the center of the explosion were directly pressed to the ground. Only the origin was enveloped in a glimmer of colorful light, standing still in the explosion. And all of this, under the watchful eyes of Buggized and Mushi, spread to every corner of the world. 2 more chapters. The plot above should basically be finished before May. Sort out the ending. Chapter 995 The World Shocks. Plop. On the Sabaody archipelago, a reporter's marker fell to the ground, and the hand holding the notebook also fell down. As a reporter, this was unqualified, but he had just seen a scene he had never seen in his life. The initial changes in the sky did not shock him, not because the power was not enough, but because the attack was similar to the prelude of Kizaru's attack. It was not until the attack was ready and the attack of the Eye of Destruction was launched that he saw what horror was. Earthquakes, magma, tsunamis, all the attacks that had erupted in Marineford before were enough to destroy an island, but compared with this last mysterious attack, these things gave people a kind and friendly feeling. Even if he could not fight, he could feel the will of destruction through the screen. What was even more shocking was that someone hit the attack back. Big news, big news. This time there is not enough space for the headlines. Have you written it down? Send it back to the headquarters. The reporter came to his senses and shook his companion beside him. This was their newspaper's photographer, responsible for recording the video materials broadcast from Marineford. When the live broadcast signal was cut off before, he regretted for a long time because of his negligence and did not get the news in time. It was filmed. Don't rush me, just write your article, but I want to kill the guy holding the video Mushi at the scene. What kind of rubbish can film the picture like this? The signal of the war on the top was only broadcast to the Sabaody archipelago, so reporters from all over the world gathered here to intercept the first-hand information of the war. But now, almost everyone's neck is tilted so that they can keep level with the picture on the screen. Even these ordinary reporters are shocked, let alone Morgan's. At this time, the headquarters of the World Economic News Agency has long been in chaos. Papers in the office are flying all over the sky, and the sound is extremely noisy. In order to arrange the newspapers in various regions, they have tried their best. Just now, Morgan's, the backbone, even fainted because of being too excited. President Morgan's, wake up. With the help of his secretary, Morgan's regained consciousness. There was nothing wrong with Morgan's body. He looked like an ordinary albatross birdman, but in fact, his fighting ability was quite good, much stronger than ordinary people. This was all developed when he was a reporter on the front line. Without these 2 skills, he would have died suddenly. There was only one reason for his coma, that was he was too excited. Big news was his lifelong pursuit. In his eyes, the war on the top was a wonderful beginning. This kind of grand war was an opportunity to find a hot topic. During the war, the headlines of the World Economic News Agency's newspapers were constantly changing. The strongest man in the world versus the Navy headquarters. The continuation of Sin. Ace the Fire Fist is actually the son of Goldo Roger, the unspeakable secret of Roger and Whitebird, son of the dragon, the most vicious bloodline. Whitebird who restored his youth, the elixir of immortality? Exclamation mark. The headlines they had saved were enough to rotate for a week. When Morgan saw Whitebird regain his youth, He found some sedatives in the drawer to comfort his excited heart. But he never expected that the Navy would use such a powerful weapon. What's more, the attack was blocked. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Go arrange the newspapers. The headlines all over the world must be ours. This is the real big news. The power of the people who destroyed the country can reach such a level. This is so exciting. The live broadcast signal at the scene was not very clear, but the brilliance of the 1,000 universe arms on the Origin and the extraordinary figure could still be seen. The smoke covered the figure of the Origin, but the looming mystery made it more intimidating invisibly. Let me think about it. The indiscriminate attacks from the upper echelons, the ruthless government that disregards the lives of soldiers, and the pirates who protect their subordinates. This is a wonderful contrast. President, if you write it this way, we will be targeted by the world government. What nonsense are you talking about? Those guys have been targeting us for a long time, but don't worry, this is not their bottom line. Just do it. Yes. Morgan's hands trembled slightly. After grabbing the oxygen tank next to him, he pressed the special respirator on his bird's beak and took a deep breath, calming his excited heart. Make that photo look better. The group of beasts has a special admiration for that person. If they hate him because of a photo, it would be too worthless. Morgan sat back on the command platform and began to direct the reporters below to prepare the newspaper module. For Arceus, this special alien, he has a special understanding. After all, he doesn't like to show his true face to others and always protects his identity with the feathers of an albatross. In his opinion, the other party should be of the same type as himself. Moreover, many people in the beasts have this style of painting. The true appearance of Jin and Shaina is also a mystery to the outside world. According to the news from the underground world, all those who saw their true faces have become dead. Send a message to the people in the Sabaody archipelago. It's okay that the people in Marineford are unprofessional, but let them show their professionalism. I want to be informed of everything that happens next, as soon as possible. Don't worry, President. The people we sent out are all backbones. Morgan's was not the only one who issued a similar order. For a while, the reporters in the Sabaody archipelago were like chicken blood, holding their cameras and pointing them at the broadcast screen, fearing that they would miss any news. In addition to those reporters, the supernovas and Sabaody also refreshed their worldview. Thanks to Kizaru's release, although these supernovas were all injured, none of them died. At this time, they were all in the corner observing the situation of the war on the top. Hawkins fiddled with his cards, but his face had long lost his usual calmness. Sweat soaked his clothes, and the cards in his hand were scattered all over the floor. Captain Hawkins, I can't see anything. What did you say? I can't see the future. The thread of fate has been cut off. The goddess of fate is powerless to fight. The future there is like a deep vortex, mysterious, terrifying, and incomprehensible. Hawkins kept trying, but no matter how hard he tried, the cards ended up scattered all over the ground. Looking at the cards on the ground, Hawkins seemed to have determined his heart and stood up and walked away. Let's go. Captain, where are you going? To the new world. Aren't we going to see the result of this battle? Before, they persuaded Hawkins to leave the Sabaody archipelago first, but Hawkins insisted on staying to watch the first-hand news of the war. Seeing that it was about to end, he didn't want to watch it anymore. There is no need. The existence that can distort fate is not something that someone can fight against. The result of this war has long been doomed. Hawkins left the Sabaody archipelago with his men and was the first to set foot on the road to the new world. The other supernovas were different. Most of them were curious about the result of the war, and Drake was particularly nervous. How can the Navy have such a weapon? If such a weapon is useless, what kind of monsters are those guys? Drake's heart was in turmoil. He originally had absolute confidence in the Navy, but the result of the war was hard for him to accept, especially now that there was one more secret about the beast. To be precise, this is no longer a simple secret. A simple secret would be enough to be dug out slowly, but now this secret seems to have a terrifying power that can destroy the world. At this time, Drake felt that the burden on his shoulders was heavy, and his undercover mission seemed to be crucial to the future of the Navy. On the roof of a house, there was a man with shaking hands like Morgan's. Kid put his hand on his face and laughed meaningfully. Kid, what's wrong with you? I'm excited. Kira, look at these monsters in the new world. Isn't their strength exciting? Become stronger, then defeat them, and finally become the pirate king. This is the way we should go. Being killed instantly by Lamy did not teach Kid a lesson. Looking at the monsters in the broadcast and the terrifying weapons that were enough to destroy the world, his inner thoughts were still to challenge the opponent, and his stubbornness was comparable to Ulti. In Marineford, the people of the scene had a more intuitive feeling about the attack just now. Even if the attack was aimed at an individual, even after the power was reduced, the aftermath was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Whether it was the pirates or the navy, they were all lying on the ground at this time. Even the top fighters such as Sengoku and Kaido, Whitebird and Akainu, looked at the sky with a solemn expression. Sengoku, it seems that I still underestimated the foundation of your navy. Your weapons are really terrifying. No wonder he always says that the 800-year foundation of the world government should not be underestimated. If this hits me, I will feel bad. But this attack should not be commanded by you. If the attack just now hits, your big Buddha body will not be able to bear it. Kaido's tone was a little sarcastic, as if he was mocking this attack with great aftermath, but Sengoku did not reply. What was that thing? As a Navy admiral, he also had some guesses. The biggest problem now was that this attack was actually blocked. Although this behavior avoided the casualties of innocent soldiers, it also meant that the threat level of the opponent rose sharply. It's almost time to end. I thought I could finish it all before he comes, but it doesn't matter. I had a great time fighting this time. I'll come to see you again when you recover from your injuries. Blackbird once, the attack from the sky once. His battle with Sengoku was interrupted twice in a row, which has affected Kaido's interest in the battle. Time has come to the last moment, and he should find his own goal. As for whether Whitebird's goal has been achieved, it is no longer within his consideration. If Whitebird still can't save his people under such interference, then he has wasted his resurrection grass. Looking at Kaido leaving, Sengoku did not continue to interfere with his behavior. Letting Kaido fight Whitebird is actually the most favorable situation for the current navy. From Kaido's tone, it can be seen that he knows the source of the attack. If the beasts have mastered such weapons, or possess such powerful strength, it will become meaningless to continue to fight with them. On the origin, due to the protection of Arceus power, the people on the ship were not affected at all, but the sound of the explosion made their ears hurt. My premonition is right. Only the power of Lord Arceus can deal with this kind of thing. Quinn was glad for his decision just now. Although it was recorded by Yamato in his notebook, it seems that it was worth it now. He couldn't resist this attack. Arceus just transferred most of the impact to the sky, but even so, the aftermath had a huge impact on Marineford. Under the influence of Whitebird's shock and the aftermath of Kaido's battle, Marineford almost became a dangerous building. After experiencing this new impact, it completely turned into a ruin. The area directly below the explosion was sunken. Through the deep cracks in the ground, you can even see the seawater flowing below. Judging from Quinn's research on weapons, the attack just now seems to have the ability to disperse. If one of them really hits him, getting rid of the terrifying picture in his mind, Quinn joined the atmosphere group on the ship and started to flatter with the members of the Origin. Godfather, what is that thing? It's a toy from the ancients. Don't worry, it won't be used again in a short time. Arceus was not sure what it was, but he was sure that it couldn't be used for the time being. His attack just now was more than that. For some reason, he had a little resistance to things falling from the sky, so when he blocked the attack, he reflected most of the force back to the sky, paralyzing the thing that launched the attack. Is this your power, Godfather? You can definitely beat up Dad, right? No, there are still 4 stone slabs left. In this case, this is not your strongest power. So, counting on his fingers, Yamato seemed to have discovered a new world and began to imagine a bright future. It's 3. The information you brought back is very useful. There is indeed another stone tablet in the vortex, but I used it somewhere else. The attack launched by the 5 elders is only one of many means, but Arceus is still not in his prime. The 3 stone tablets are unknown. The icicle stone tablet is temporarily out of the body, countering the weapons of the 5 elders, but it is just an incomplete and plain attack from him. Put away your little thoughts. I promised that I would not interfere in the problems between you and your daughter. You should find a way to solve Kaido's problem yourself. Don't be like this, Godfather. How about you be flexible? Highlights. This is 2 chapters in 1. Chapter 996, Strategic Divine Deterrence. How terrifying Arceus was in his prime is a mystery to the beasts, because no one has ever seen Arceus with all the tablets. For ordinary people, finding the tablets is a great achievement, and even if they just bring back information, they are worth a big reward. But among these people, Yamato is an exception. In other dynasties, she is a general who has no title to her name, but she doesn't care about this kind of thing. Her biggest goal now is to get rid of Kaido. Yamato, look at this battlefield. This is hell for the weak and a harvester of life. A decision made by a superior will cause countless people to die on this battlefield. If the attack just now had landed, it would have caused some consequences. So I hate war. I don't know why my father is so obsessed with war. What's so good about this thing? War is not a good thing, but peace is achieved with force. It is impossible to expect others' kindness. Being so strong that no one dares to hit you is the way to live in this chaotic world. So I agree with your father's approach. Although it is quite torturous, it can urge you to keep getting stronger and allow you to live a better life. No, Godfather, I think there is something wrong with your logic. It is obvious that my father has some problem with his brain. Do you think normal people would use Conqueror's Haki to wake people up? Thinking back to that period of time, Yamato still felt it was outrageous. As long as she was sleepy, Kaido would train her more, but Kaido deliberately used Conqueror's Haki to wake her up. At that time, she could not bear Kaido's Conqueror Haki, so she was stunned by Kaido, forced to be late, and then Kaido trained her. This was just one of many examples. Compared with training, she felt that Kaido was playing with her. So you should work hard to become stronger. In this case, if you can master all the power of Zekrom, Kaido is no match for you now. Wait, what do you mean by now, Godfather? Regarding Kaido, Yamato's nerves are still very sharp, and he seems to have discovered something very scary. It means now, and you can experience more for yourself. At this time, a huge black shadow fell from the sky, and the 8-headed dragon bit a CP0 in its mouth, and landed in front of the origin. The aftermath of the attack just now affected not only the ground, but also the sky. The Navy's flying dragon unit and the 8-headed dragon can be said to be the first to bear the brunt. Under the decision of the 5 elders, the flying dragon unit, which could still fight against the 8-headed dragon for a while, was successfully destroyed in the aftermath of the attack. The 5 of them never thought that someone could bounce back such an attack. Even the 8-headed dragon lost a life, because it was too close to the explosion point. This is the resurrection of it. As for the CP0 in its mouth, it was caught when it passed by nearby. The 8-headed dragon knew that its creator hated these agents the most. The resurrection of the 8-headed dragon has an advantage, which is that it will clear the debuffs left on the body before, so the resurrected 8-headed dragon was not affected by any impact. After encountering the CP0 who was dizzy by the aftermath, it can be said that it easily took him down. Raw, well, you did a good job. These CP agents are annoying to look at. Keep going and see how far Kaido will take things. Yamato on the ship was still thinking about life, but the origin had already continued to sail towards the interior of Marineford. Under the influence of the aftermath of the explosion, the ice surface of Marineford was broken in large quantities, and a ready-made route had appeared at this time. However, the CP0 attacked by the 8-headed dragon was just one of them. The other CP0 active on the battlefield had already sent their news back to Mirijoa. How is it possible that attack was stopped? The 5 elders, who usually remain calm, showed a rare panic on their faces. During their days in power, they received all kinds of strange news from all over the world every day. The demise of countries, the fall of royal families, the rise of pirates, the advent of the Great Pirate Era. These news are nothing to them, except today, it is different. How is it possible to be that powerful? The world government has a trump card that others cannot compete with. With this, even if the world has always been a chaotic pattern, it can be well controlled. Once something is out of control, let it be completely destroyed. This is the way the world government eliminates it. In the long history, countless islands have been destroyed for this reason. The five elders are not him, and they are not using the methods of the past, but just a new weapon. But from the feedback, that thing has been damaged, which is something that even the five elders cannot handle. Lord Im will be angry when he wakes up. At least it's not destroyed. We can repair it later. Vegapunk is capable of doing it. The question is, what should we do next? What about their attitude? How did he do it? Could it be that the ship is from Pluto? Or is it something made by the shipbuilders of the Seven Waters? They also have their own speculations about Tom's whereabouts. The ones who have the closest relationship with the fishmen are Whitebeard and Kaido, but Whitebeard's character is just to protect Fishman Island with a flag. If Tom is really related to them, it is most likely to be in the beast. In the cognition of the five elders, ancient weapons are the most terrifying power in the world. Apart from the weapons made by Pluto and the legendary shipbuilders of the Seven Waters that are enough to compete with Pluto, they really can't think of what it is. Wano country is intact. That is definitely not Hades, and this kind of thing is not important. Whether it is the power of manpower or weapons, it means that the beasts have an ultimate weapon. This thing can hit back our attack, which means it can be more powerful. The voice of the bold five elders interrupted their argument and pointed out the key point. This is not the so-called bloodline factor technology. We need to figure out where the power comes from. This is a terrifying deterrent comparable to ancient weapons. Users and manufacturers, these are not important. What is important is that they have the ability to deal a devastating blow to the Navy branch, the allied countries, and even the world government. And that person is here. Mirajoa's safety is still no problem. Let's postpone some actions. It's not a good thing to really force them. Let's deal with this matter after Lord Im wakes up. Second, let's also postpone the action against Quinn. Arceus, who usually has a very low sense of presence, is the real big trouble. Before, they didn't care, and they could maintain order on the sea, so they let the pirates act, and only sent some subordinates to deal with special problems. But now it is different. The force displayed by the beasts forced them to pay more attention to these monsters. This brief confrontation made them choose to temporarily give up military action and plan other things instead. The war on the top was not successful. Since Kaido has set his sights on Whitebeard, let him go. Okay, but the live broadcast there. Send someone to cut it off. It will be bad if the remaining things are transmitted. They have made the decision to end the war, but the world government must not give up on its own initiative. They will only reveal this intention to the Navy and let them decide the rest on their own. But before that, they decided to cut off the signal of the Den Mushi. The new order was passed to CP0 present, and they also took new actions. At this moment, the person who was criticized as a waste by photographers all over the world also crawled out of the ruins. From the moment Zephyr detonated the explosive rock, Buggy knew that this war was not for him, so he used the detour as an excuse to take his brothers around and started to move away from the center of the battlefield. Just when Buggy thought he was out of danger, a bigger crisis came. What is this? How can the Navy have such a horrible thing? Due to his excessive emotions, Buggy's body has been broken into several pieces, and the hand holding the Den Mushi is waving up and down, causing the reporters watching the broadcast to curse again. Captain Buggy. Mr. 3 was just knocked unconscious, and then he was kidnapped by the rhinoceros beetle next to the straw hat boy. What did you say? The rhinoceros beetle kidnapped Mr. 3. Forget it, I'd better run away first. I don't have time to care about him now. I will remember you, Mr. 3. Buggy muttered his thoughts and then made a slightly sad expression. It's just that the explosion just now made these pirates dizzy and many of them had blood in their ears. They don't have Arceus to protect them, and their hearing has decreased a lot. Mr. 3's candle barrier can block a certain impact, but it is very limited and only slightly reduces some damage. Because their ears are not working well, coupled with Buggy's exaggerated expression, they automatically made up some outrageous words in their minds. Save the third brother. Knock down the straw hats and save the third brother. That's enough. Buggy looked at the pirates in front of him angrily, but his head flew up directly, and a blue sickle blade chopped on the ice behind him. Who is it? How dare you sneak attack me? Looking back, a man in a white suit and a clown mask was staring at Buggy. Buggy the clown, hand over the den mushi in your hand immediately. Don't even think about it. My plan to become famous hasn't even started yet. Don't even think about stopping me. Although he was escaping, Buggy didn't give up his previous idea. In his opinion, there was no contradiction between escaping and becoming famous. It just required some small operations. A mere 15 million Bailey's bounty. Buggy the clown, you are too self-righteous. Do you think I'm still the same as before? Guys, catch him. Due to their indescribable luck, these prisoners in Impel Down were willing to work for Buggy. However, they still overestimated themselves. These prisoners on the first 2 floors were no match for CP0. Under his skilled 6 styles, the pirates who rushed forward quickly retreated, and were soon defeated. The prisoners on the first 2 floors were basically prisoners from the first half of the Grand Line. If they were prisoners from the Force Seas, they would usually be directly imprisoned nearby, and only a few would be sent to Impel Down. They were okay at bullying ordinary people, but they were far inferior to the elite agents of the world government. Captain Buggy. This guy is so powerful. Captain Buggy, please take action quickly, we are not his opponent. The younger brothers around him looked at Buggy behind him eagerly, waiting for Buggy to show his power, and those eyes put Buggy on the fire again. For a while, he couldn't run or fight. Captain Buggy, are you scared? Looking at the younger brothers fighting, you actually retreated. Actually, while Buggy was still struggling, CP0 had broken through the attacks of those pirates, and came to Buggy, and grabbed his head, but at this time, a terrifying murderous intent enveloped the CP0. This is my brother, can you give me some face, and stop for now? Did you hear that? He actually said that Captain Buggy is his brother. I heard it. This is red-haired Shanks. He can actually call red-haired Shanks brothers. He is worthy of being the man who will take down Whitebeard's head. I know. Captain Buggy came here to find red-haired. He didn't want red-haired to interfere with his battle, so he came here to block him. Captain Buggy, we will follow you forever. The prisoners fell into self-admiration again. Only the CP0 looked at the red-haired man in front of him with sweat dripping down his back. Facing the 4 emperors directly was not what he wanted to do. Red-haired Shanks, this is the order of the world government, I'll only say it once. Get out of the way. This CP0 did not want to be an enemy of the 4 emperors, but he had the orders of the 5 elders on him. Under the premise of having orders, these CP0s dared to do anything. Whether it was interfering with Kaido's battle or not giving red-haired face, it was nothing to them. Shave. In front of Shanks, the CP0 attacked Buggy, and what was waiting for him was only Griffin's blade. After easily dealing with the CP0 in front of him, Shanks looked at Buggy beside him. Long time no see, Buggy. Long time no see. You're still like this. I get angry when I see you. Have you forgotten that I only hate you? Is that true? Didn't I just save you? You should thank me. Who should thank you? Bastard. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have eaten the devil fruit by mistake, and I wouldn't be like this today. Whose fault do you think all this is? Red-haired Shanks, the youngest of the 4 emperors, the monster of the new world, and the man Buggy is least afraid of. In front of Whitebeard and Kaido, Buggy can only pretend to be calm, but in front of Shanks, he really dares to show his face. Wait, why are you here, you bastard? After roaring for a long time, Buggy suddenly realized that this was Marineford. As the Emperor of the Sea, Shanks coming here was not a good thing. I'm here to give advice. This war should end. Shanks put away Griffin, patted the dust off his body, and walked towards the direction of the origin. Chapter 997, Shanks, the Sucker, the Captain's Last Order. The 3 forces of beasts, Whitebeard, and the Navy headquarters are the protagonists of this war. As for the prisoners who escaped from Impel Down, and the Revolutionary Army, they can't play a decisive role at all. As long as the Navy and the Whitebeard pirates are willing to give up the fight, the battle will naturally end. But the problem is that now there is an unexpected factor of Kaido, and the character of that battle maniac is not suitable for mediation. Shanks has imagined the situation of mediating the war by himself. Suppose he said in front of Kaido, "Stop it, or we will be your opponent." This sentence is still a bit deterrent to others, but it is a joke to Kaido. Aha, that's great, let's fight. Kaido will probably reply to him like this, and happily start a new war, which is not the situation he wants. But there is good news, that is, Beasts is a strange dual talker system. This system is almost impossible in any major force. It is outrageous that there are two people in power in one force without conflicts, but in Beasts, this system has been implemented. According to Yuta's gossip, Arceus has a lot of say in the Beasts, and even Kaido will refer to his opinions, which gives Shanks another idea. The aftermath of the outbreak just now has further strengthened his idea. He directed the aftermath to the sky and did not launch a second attack. Compared with Kaido, this is undoubtedly a peace advocate. There are no fools in the four emperors. Even the current Charlotte Lin was once an extremely shrewd person, but it may be that she has too many children, which has caused her personality to become more and more abnormal. And Red Hair's face has always been a very strange thing. Except for Buggy, people who don't give him face will always suffer misfortune inexplicably, and the degree of backlash will be different depending on their own strength. But he himself doesn't care much about face, and sometimes he can even use humble to describe his actions. Among the four emperors, Red Hair is also a person full of mysteries. Big Mom, who established the 10,000 kingdoms, Kaido, who advocates war, and Whitebird, who is looking for his family. The goals of these three people are very clear. Only Red Hair, his purpose and identity are unpredictable. Boss, what should we do now? You guys go to the battlefield first, but don't continue to expand the war. I'll be there soon. Shanks parted ways with his subordinates and walked alone to the path that the Origin must pass. Excuse me, do you mind if I come on board to talk about something? Adoptive father, it's Yuta's adoptive father. Do you want him to come up? On the ice, Shanks waved his arms at the Origin like a passenger who wanted to take a ride. This is a small etiquette in the world of pirates. Going to the enemy ship alone is a way to show sincerity, which is usually more acceptable to the other party. Let him come up. I want to see what he has to say. The Origin did not stop, but after getting Yamato's gesture of agreement, Red Hair had already appeared on the deck of the Origin and saw the person in charge in front of him. Red-haired Shanks, what do you want to do? Arceus didn't need to speak. Quinn had already taken the initiative to stand up and act as the interrogator, and Shanks didn't care about this kind of thing and got straight to the point. Sir Arceus, how do you hope this war will develop? Hey, Red Hair, don't take yourself too seriously. Do I need to tell you what Lord Arceus means? Don't think that just because your daughter is a popular singer and has brought us a lot of benefits, you can tell us what to do. Quinn didn't give Red Hair face, but Red Hair's reaction was still very calm, just observing Arceus' reaction. The little brother dared to say this, and the boss didn't stop him, which meant that the other boss tacitly agreed. But Shanks didn't understand how Quinn connected this matter with Yuta. I came with sincerity. There is no point in continuing this war. Both the Navy and Whitebird have suffered huge casualties. Your beast fruit is doing business. There is no point in making the CMS, right? I know you are looking for something. Although I don't know where it is, I can help a little. I have a lot of people under my command. I can search in the territory. This is useful after all. I'm not interested in this kind of war, but Kaido's affairs are not over yet. His goal is to fight to the death with Whitebird. After the battle is over, he will naturally not interfere in the affairs here. Red Hair got a relatively good result. At least the other party did not intend to continue to expand the war. Now that the elite of the Whitebird pirates have been fully deployed, Jack and Alga may have occupied most of Whitebird's territory without interference. Whitebird's withdrawal is within Red Hair's expectations, so he simply made a suggestion. In that case, I will help Kaido clean up the people who are interfering with him. Correspondingly, after his battle, can this war be brought to an end? Of course, what I said before is still valid. That terrifying attack was enough to destroy Marineford. If it happened again, no one would be able to protect the people on the island. So Red Hair directly put himself in a weak position, proposed this agreement in the form of a transaction, and first stated what he could do. According to Yuta, the other party is easy to talk to and will not make things difficult for people as long as the conditions are right. Okay. This is the purpose of the beasts. Even if there is no Shanks, Kaido will not continue after the battle. Now there is a sucker who takes the initiative to deliver himself. That is free labor. Ideally, Red Hair hopes that the battle can stop immediately, but he can't do it. There are too many top combat forces involved in this war. He can only stop the other party by uniting one side. It's a pity that the 5 elders have some doubts about him now, otherwise they may have informed him of their decision long ago. If Red Hair knew that the world government had already thought of ending the war, I don't know what his expression would be. When Red Hair and Arceus reached an agreement and headed towards the center of the battlefield, Marineford was completely split in half. With the terrifying power of the Tremor fruit, Whitebird forcibly shattered the entire island. Dad, what are you going to do? Come here. Gilila, there's no need. Listen carefully, guys. The next is the final captain's order. The rest of you, return to the new world alive, and everything that happened to me was my own choice. No matter what my ending is, you are not allowed to have thoughts of revenge. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 998. Give me some face. This war should end. The Origin and the Red Fourth were both approaching the center of the battlefield, but Shanks had already returned to his ship, and he did not go with Arceus. The 5 elders did not know what was wrong with them, and they actually suspected that he had some ulterior motives. His trip to Marineford was enough to make many things unclear. If he was on the same ship with the people of the beasts, it would be even more troublesome. Some misunderstandings may not be eliminated, but there is no need to let them continue to expand. In this process, the Navy soldiers also had different reactions. The aftermath of the explosion had a more serious impact on the grassroots combat power. Although most of the power was directed to the sky, it still broke up most of the Navy's formation. When the Origin and Red Hair began to advance towards the battlefield, these people just stood up. For the soldiers who were already red-eyed, the identity of the enemy has become unimportant, and killing their enemies has become their only obsession. Several soldiers struggled to move the cannon on the ground, and aimed the muzzle at the Origin. It's the pirate ship of the beasts. Prepare to attack. Load, I said load. Didn't you hear me? Sir, my body won't obey my orders. I can't move at all. The soldier holding the cannonball responded to another Navy with difficulty. The Navy commander wanted to scold him, but the next moment he found that his body was also in a state of stiffness. What's wrong, Doflamingo? What are you doing, you bastard? In his peripheral vision, he saw Doflamingo walking over with a very arrogant pace. His slightly raised fingers explained why their bodies couldn't move. Don't you want your position as a 7 warlord of the sea? Don't be so excited. The world government will not deprive me of my status just because you are a rear admiral, and you better understand that I'm saving you. It's not a good thing to make the people on that ship angry. Swoosh. The scimitar made of yellow sand came from below, but the line in Doflamingo's hand had already caught the clouds in the sky, and then he retracted his fingers and dodged the attack from Crocodile. But the Marines didn't have such luck. The moisture in their bodies was quickly sucked dry by the sand blades, and they soon turned into mummies. Crocodile bastard, didn't I tell you that this is the end of the day? You're making it very difficult for me. Why should I listen to you? And are you such a kind person? Rescuing a marine you don't even know. This is not what you should do. I just don't want to be affected. See, Crocodile bastard, these monsters are the masters of the future. Among the 7 warlords of the sea, Doflamingo was the most excited person after seeing the attack in the sky being stopped. Being able to confront the world government with force like this is the most dreamy partner. So, what does that have to do with me? Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. You were sent to Impel Down by that young lady, but I think you didn't go to Impel Down in vain. You gained a lot from this trip. Crocodile's already gloomy face became even darker, and the resentment on him was almost materialized, and a cloud of sand was also gathering in his hand. Enough, crocodile bastard. If you are not an idiot, you can see that this war is about to end. Should you continue to fight or go and see its final result? I believe you can make a smart decision. Now you still have a chance to join forces with me. Dream on. Crocodile still rejected Doflamingo, but did not continue to attack him. His body turned into a wisp of yellow sand and flew in another direction. He has been pursuing ancient weapons for countless years. This is the first time he has seen this extremely terrifying power. In his mind, this is the legendary ancient weapon. After all, Nico Robin was sent by the beasts. Crocodile doesn't believe it. The beasts have no information about ancient weapons. If there is such power, if he also has such a terrifying power, then he can build a militarized country with absolute military deterrence, and thus create his own utopia. He wants to see what direction the beasts with such power will take the world. Brother Tay, is this the power you are following? Jinbei jumped out of the sea and fished out a few navy officers. In normal wars, they were just paddling and occasionally missed their attacks. He was doing the finishing work, and these navy officers were ready-made witnesses. Due to his position, Jinbei was directly pushed into the water by the impact of the explosion. Even through the sea water, he saw the terrifying power. Jinbei, I found what I was looking for. If there is that power, if the Lord restores his power, then the dream world will surely come. Tiger's words echoed in Jinbei's ears, making Jinbei's heart unable to calm down for a long time. At this time, he initially understood why the doctrine of the Arceus cult has always emphasized the power of the Lord. Hancock didn't feel anything about this, and looked eagerly in the direction of the origin. Although Quinn had already indicated that Olga had other tasks, the support of the beasts had arrived, and maybe Olga would come. Hawkeye's gaze was similar to Hancock's, but he had another idea. Swordsman can also reach this level. In the corner of the battlefield, the invisible Absalom dragged Moria away. Moria could not arouse Kaido's interest at all, which led to no one paying attention to Moria after he was knocked down by a stick. Only the loyal Absalom risked his life to rescue Moria. At this time, he had already obtained a small boat and fled from Marineford with the unconscious Moria. At the same time, Whitebeard's battle continued. The current situation is a relatively ideal state for Whitebeard. Ace has been successfully rescued. As long as they can leave the Navy headquarters, the rescue plan will be considered a success. The rescue operation was even smoother than the original timeline. No one was chasing Ace now. It was not that the Navy did not want to, but that they had the intention. They were either not strong enough or could not get away. Except for the admiral level combat power, no one could kill Ace in front of the captains and captains of the new world. But Zephyr died. Sengoku was fighting Kaido. Akainu and Kizaru were firmly watched by Whitebeard. Even if they had to withstand the damage of the two, Whitebeard did not give them the opportunity to intervene in other battles. Garp could not chase his two grandsons. As for Kuzan, although Yamato escaped, Kuzan also rejoined the battlefield, but he did not have the same obsession with Ace and Luffy as Sakazuki. Even for Whitebeard, it was not easy to take several attacks in order to delay their steps. Whitebeard did not have the body of the mythical beast, nor the talent of the steel balloon, but from the moment he came to Marineford, he never thought of leaving alive. At the age of 72, he does not have too much nostalgia for life. In the days when the Whitebeard Pirates were founded, he also gained what he wanted, and the company of his family made him extremely satisfied. The people he knew when he was young ended and disappeared one by one, which made Whitebeard feel that he was the remnant of the times. Like Zephyr, he also hopes to find a suitable place for his own end. No matter how much Whitebeard's body is taken care of, it is gradually decaying. It is a rare experience for the old man to regain the power of youth at this moment. And until today, he is not concerned about himself, but the future of the crew. The last captain's order is for them. Without Whitebeard, the Whitebeard Pirates are already dead in name only. Without the combat power of the four emperors, the Whitebeard Pirates will automatically withdraw from the position of the Emperor of the Sea. Judging from the current situation of the sea, no one can fill this vacancy. The rise of the beasts has become a foregone conclusion. Whitebird admitted that Kaido's intervention indirectly made the rescue smoother, but he knew very well that he and Kaido had no friendship, and Kaido did everything for the sake of fighting. More than a decade ago, when he was fighting against Kaido, he felt powerless. He would lose and die in battle, but this was something Whitebird could accept. He was just afraid that his stupid son would be too depressed and want to avenge him and the beasts. That kind of behavior is undoubtedly suicide, but pirates are such a group. They will still go all out, even though they know they will die. In order to prevent this situation, Whitebird issued the so-called captain's order. The last captain's order? Dad, what are you talking about? Don't say such unlucky words. We should go back to the new world together and build our new ship. Gilila, I'm a remnant of the old era. There is no ship in the new world that can carry me. Remember my order. Go back alive. No revenge. Across the cliff he created, Whitebird issued his last order, and in the process, he did not look back, and always faced his sons with his back. What a joke. All of you pirates should be destroyed here. Meteor volcano. Akainu wanted to continue attacking, but Whitebird didn't give him the chance. He punched the air in front of him with both fists, interrupting the pre-swing of Akainu's attack. Lava Kid, your opponent is me. Don't even think about intervening in other battles. Whitebird didn't know where Kaido was, and he wasn't that keen on fighting, but no matter what happened, he wouldn't let these guys who could threaten his son out of his sight. Borsalino, I'll hold on here. You go catch those guys who are running away. Akainu shouted Kizaru's name and kept fighting with Whitebird. Akainu didn't know what was going on in other battlefields, so he planned to hold Whitebird back by himself and let Kizaru deal with the running ace. Whitebird was already staring at the two of them, and he couldn't get away by himself, so only Kizaru could distance himself from Whitebird with his ability. Upon hearing this, Kizaru immediately turned into a flash of light, intending to break away from the battle with Whitebird. Whitebird would naturally not allow Kizaru to leave. After forcing Akainu in front of him to retreat, he attacked Kizaru in the sky. Taking advantage of this gap, Akainu's whole body entered the magma state and crashed into Whitebird's body, but his observation haki suddenly sensed the danger signal, and his body immediately turned into magma and dispersed. At the same time, Kaido's mace had already smashed down. This old guy is my opponent. Can you Navy men get out of the way? In order to hold Kizaru back, Whitebird even gave up defending against Akainu. If Akainu's attack was implemented, Whitebird's body would not be able to withstand it. This was undoubtedly a situation Kaido did not want to see. His battle had been interrupted twice, and in order to prevent this most crucial battle from being disrupted again, he took action to stop Akainu. New Gate, your son has been rescued. It's time to fulfill your previous promise. This is not a real escape, Kaido. So, it's because your sons are too weak that they need to rely on others to escape. You really have created a lot of trouble. Looking at Kaido talking to Whitebird, neither Kizaru nor Akainu acted rashly. Needless to say, Kizaru's character is naturally good. He has been forced to do a lot more in this war. Akainu just doesn't want to fight 4 emperors at the same time. Judging from Kaido's tone, he is obviously here to fight Whitebird. The internal fighting of pirates is a good opportunity for the navy. He doesn't want to help Kaido and Whitebird form a united front. How to let Whitebird and Kaido continue to fight while he goes to chase the fleeing pirates has become a problem for Akainu to think about, but he didn't hesitate for long, because the top combat forces of both sides have already arrived nearby. Sengoku, Garb, Crane, Arceus and Red Hair. At this moment, the high-level combat forces gathered here have exceeded the Battle of God Valley that year. You seem to have become stronger again. Have you found your stuff? I have, but why have you been dragging it on for so long? According to the original plan, it should be over now. There are always accidents, just like that thing in the sky. Please help me deal with the guy who is in the way. The remaining battle will not be too long. Seeing Arceus coming, Kaido didn't believe that there would be any unexpected factors that could interfere with his battle. If even Arceus couldn't prevent that kind of accident, then he could only start a more advanced melee. Compared to Kaido's ease, the navy is different. The vice captain of the beasts plus the red hair pirates. This is not good news. Red-haired Shanks, why are you here? It's simple. I hope this war ends here. There is no need to continue. What a joke. The Navy has made such a huge sacrifice. Do you want us to give up this war because of your few words? Listening to Shanks' words, Akainu immediately refuted Shanks' words. The Navy invested a lot of energy and time in this war, but did not gain any results. If it ends like this, it will be a real shame for the Navy. No, I just hope you can recognize the current situation. If you continue to fight, the red hair pirates will also be your enemy. Chapter 999, The End of the War, the Final Battle. Red Hair never thought that he could persuade a party to give up the fight with words, so after reaching an agreement with Arceus, threatening the Navy with force became his goal. There were not many people from Beidou and Red Hair, but they were all top level fighters. Arceus, Kaido, Yamato, Shaina, Jin, Quinn, Beckman, Shanks, these people plus the whitebeard pirates, even the Navy headquarters could not handle it. The most important thing is Arceus' strategic deterrence. Red Hair believes that there are still people who understand in the world government, and that kind of devastating attack is enough to make them stop. The fact is the same as he guessed. Facing Red Hair's threat, the faces of the Navy present have turned livid, and even Sengoku pressed Garp's shoulders. Garp, your grandson's problem has been solved now. Don't tell me that you are too old to withstand your grandson's fist. Before, he was Garp's grandson, and Sengoku couldn't force him to do anything. But facing these monsters, if Garp continues to slack off, then their brotherhood will be gone. I know that I was just careless just now. You should be more serious. To be fair, Sengoku no longer wanted to continue the war. The current situation did not give the Navy any advantage, but they had not achieved any results, so they could not just give up. While Sengoku was struggling, the Den Mushi on Crane rang, and the latest order from the Five Elders finally reached the Navy headquarters. Five Elders, are you serious? Of course, Sengoku, follow the order. Based on the order, minimize the impact to the greatest extent. That's what you have to do next. Yes. Several people in the Navy had heard the order from the Five Elders. Garp and Crane seemed to be used to this kind of thing. Kizaru also acted nonchalant. Only Sakazuki widened his eyes. If Sengoku had not hung up the Den Mushi, he would definitely have a debate with the Five Elders. But facing the order that had been confirmed, all he could do was to execute this one thing. The war can be ended, but the live broadcast of the Den Mushi must be cut off first. The war was ended. This was the order of the Five Elders. In their view, if even the weapon did not work, it would be futile to continue fighting. They simply chose to stop the loss. This was in line with Sengoku's inner thoughts, but the premise was that he could not admit defeat in the live broadcast. There were more than 100,000 people on the battlefield, and the news could not be blocked. However, the news that spread out afterwards could still be argued. If the Navy admitted defeat in front of the Den Mushi, then the face would be really lost. For a while, Buggy, who was holding the Den Mushi, became the focus of everyone. Beckman, do me a favor, and go find Buggy for me. I told you what he looks like. Shaina, Jin, you two should go together. Remember to bring the Den Mushi with you. Shanks and Arceus gave orders to their subordinates one after another, intending to get the Den Mushi first, and Sengoku also issued new orders. Borsalino, bring Kuzan back, and have the messenger inform the people that the war is over, but be careful of the impact. Before the video was cut off, the Navy could not announce the word truce to the world. This approach was the final bottom line. If the top combat power did not take action, the casualties caused by the battles of the lower people would be within the acceptable range. For the top leaders, the face of the Navy was more important than the lives of some soldiers. Newgate, you heard it too. Now you can fight with confidence. Kaido didn't care what the final result of this war would be. He just wanted to fight now, a peak battle without interference. Gilila, Kit, don't complain if you die in my hands. Arceus will not interfere with Kaido's battle, and Red Hair did not participate due to the previous agreement, and the Navy will not stop them. For the Navy, the best outcome is for Kaido and Whitebeard to perish together. So the remaining people just entered a state of mutual defense. For the Navy, they also have to control the aftermath of the battle between the two monsters, so that they do not affect more places. After receiving Whitebeard's affirmative answer, Kaido's body has already moved. Kaido, you are really impatient. Kyusuke Mokiri was waved in Whitebeard's hand, and he chopped off Kaido's head. Accompanied by bursts of wild laughter, Hachisagi and Kyusuke Mokiri bombarded each other. The two did not have any nonsense, and the mace and the broadsword kept bombarding each other in the simplest way. There was no fancy, only pure strength competition. Whether it was Hachisagi or Kyusuke Mokiri, they were heavy weapons, and Whitebeard and Kaido's strength was also men who had reached the peak. The roar from the collision of the sword and the stick was endless, but for the two, this was just the beginning. Gugu, Newgate, we are old acquaintances. This level of probing is unnecessary, right? Gugu, that's right, you are no longer the kid you were back then. A ball of white light appeared on the blade of the Kusagora Kiri in Whitebeard's hand. Under the vibrating light, the domineering aura of the conqueror radiated like lightning. Looking back, it was Whitebeard who conveyed Rock's words and brought Kaido to the pirate group. As time passed, the kid back then had become a monster of the same level as himself. Gugu. That's it. This is the kind of battle I want. Kaido's body began to swell, and blue dragon scales wrapped around his whole body. The domineering aura also appeared on his weapon. Great power, thunderous bagua. The lightning on the 8 trigrams began to spread, and the light ball formed by the tremor fruit also exploded. If the people around hadn't used their domineering aura to block the aftermath of their attack, then Marineford would really be flattened. Or rather, it was a basin. After all, the aftermath of Arceus's previous attack had left a huge deep pit on the ground. The two men's bodies stood firm in the attack, but the ground beneath their feet had reached its limit. The rocks began to crack, and the land beneath their feet quickly became dilapidated, and it was completely impossible to tell that this was a glorious square a few hours ago. As more stones were crushed into powder by the impact, a large amount of dust rushed into the air, and in the smoke and dust, Whitebeard jumped high, and Kyusuke Mokiri chopped at Kaido again with great force. Although Kaido still blocked this attack, Whitebeard's attack was far more than this. With the recoil caused by the collision of weapons, Whitebeard came behind Kaido and punched out of thin air. The air was left with traces under his hammer, and the space was almost collapsed under this blow. But Whitebeard knew very well that this was not enough. While sending out shockwaves, Whitebeard's heels also had a vibrating force. With the momentum of falling, Whitebeard kicked Kaido below. The previous attack was just a feint, and the current attack was real. Newgate, you are still as terrifying as you were back then, both in terms of strength and fighting nerves. However, there was no panic in Kaido's tone, and an indestructible barrier had appeared around him. But this is not the first time we have fought. You should still remember this. The absolute defense of the defense is relative. Depending on the level of the user, the upper limit of the defense is also different. The power that the young Whitebeard can burst out is naturally much more terrifying than that of the old Whitebeard, but Kaido has not stood still over the years. Compared with the last battle, Kaido has become stronger, and accordingly, the upper limit of his defense has become more terrifying. For him, it is not impossible to rely on the barrier to face the god evasion. Whitebeard has returned to his peak, but Kaido is constantly improving his upper limit. Of course I haven't forgotten, and you shouldn't forget, that I have a way to attack you through your barrier. Boom. Whitebeard's attack was blocked by the barrier, but Whitebeard's attack did not disappear. Under the influence of the vibration, the air guarding the rear also began to vibrate, and the vibration of space extended the damage to him, and the vibration seemed to cause resonance in his body, causing damage to his body like a high-level armed color. This is the awakening of the tremor fruit, which can bring the power of vibration to the extreme. In this state, the vibration in space is like an extension of Whitebeard's hands and feet. Unless the barrier isolates another small world, Whitebeard's attack can penetrate the barrier and attack the main body. Kaido still remembers Whitebeard's fighting style, and Whitebeard also remembers Kaido's guard, so he didn't waste time, and entered the awakening state directly after the battle began. The island was affected by Whitebeard's ability. Under Whitebeard's relentless attack, a large number of cracks appeared on Marineford. The island even showed a tendency to split under the influence of the vibration. The battle between Kaido and Whitebeard caused a huge aftermath. The strong wind rolled around them, and the sky above their heads cracked again. Since the beginning of the war on the top, the sky of Marineford has been in misfortune. Previously, Arceus' power left a cloud ring in the sky. The ring-shaped cloud floated in the sky like the border of the ring, but now the ring was cut off again by a knife. A neat dragon dance bagua. The scorching dragon flames wrapped around his body, especially the flames on the tail behind him were burning more fiercely. At the same time, his body was twisting slightly. As his body danced, Kaido's mace was swung at Whitebird again. All those who have seen the dragon dance will not let their opponents use the dragon dance again. Ordinary people will not even have the opportunity to use the dragon dance in front of Whitebird and will be ruthlessly interrupted by Whitebird. But Kaido is different. As he becomes more and more familiar with the dragon dance, he has already integrated this skill into the battle. Whether it is swinging or moving, he can use the dragon dance in this process. Boom. Even though Whitebird's body is also attached to the domineering aura, this time it still made a muffled sound. Although he was hit by Kaido, Whitebird's attack did not stop. The cloud cutter in his hand chopped down, leaving a large string of sparks on the dragon scales on Kaido's shoulder. The hard dragon scales and powerful domineering aura prevented him from breaking through the defense, but the force had already penetrated into his body. Both Kaido and Whitebird possessed the top level armed color, and once they were hit, it was impossible for them to be completely immune to each other's damage. The attacks of both sides hit at the same time, but for Whitebird, this was not cost effective. Relying on the ability of the tremor fruit, Whitebird had a certain advantage in attack power, but Kaido's defense and recovery ability far exceeded Whitebird. Even if Kaido was more seriously injured, Whitebird would be the one who failed in the end. What's more, they were not playing a turn-based game. Whitebird's vibration needed to rely on the swing of his limbs to exert its power, but Kaido was different. In addition to the mace, he had other weapons on his body. It was not the kind of equipment that King had. King's fighting style was not what Kaido liked. For Kaido, the most trustworthy thing was still his own body. Whitebird slash was blocked by Kaido's domineering aura, but the scales on Kaido's body suddenly stood up, and then those scales shot out like bullets, and there was a strong armed color domineering aura attached to them. Whitebird's attack seemed to trigger the anti-armor damage, but this was not a counter injury, but a skill that Kaido actively released. The scale shooting attack of Dragon type Pokemon. With the advanced application of Dragon type Pokemon's own scales, they can use them as weapons to shoot out, which can have unexpected effects in many cases. Dense scales shot at Whitebird. Even his body had a lot of blood marks, and then he was seen emitting bursts of white light all over his body, and the powerful vibration force bounced all the scattered scales away. It's not over yet. Descend to the third world. Induce Naraku Dragon Scale Dance. Thunder, domineering, dragon power. Kaido used his strongest attack at this time, and even the air wailed where the 8 knot passed. Whether it was the scales shot out before, or the scales shot away by Whitebird, they all formed a hole under the traction of Kaido's 8 precepts. The waving mace almost turned into a roaring dragon, using the powerful domineering color as his dragon breath, and launched his own charge towards Whitebird. Come on. Looking at Kaido's attack, and feeling the power from youth in his body, Whitebird's heart was also excited. At this time, he was no longer fighting for his son, but a contest with a powerful opponent. He didn't like Kaido, but he couldn't deny that Kaido was a strong opponent. In Kaido, Whitebird even found the feeling of fighting Roger in the past. Indistinctly, he even felt that this junior was gradually surpassing Roger at the time. I can't hold on any longer. I'm 2000 short. I'll write it tomorrow during the day. Mayday don't doom point JPG. Chapter 1000. You succumb to the times, and the times succumb to me. Dragon scales fluttered, and Kaido's figure became much lighter. Scale shot is a kind of armor removal for dragon type Pokemon. It temporarily abandons scales in exchange for faster movement speed. This has no effect on their bodies. With their physical strength, the regeneration speed of scales is very fast, and it won't take long for them to recover. This is even more true for Kaido. In this world, whether it is a bone fracture or missing teeth, a glass of milk can restore them to their original state. So for Kaido, the time to end this state depends entirely on himself. When he wants to make up for his defense, the missing scales will naturally be restored. Oh, by the way, your traitorous subordinate has been killed by my subordinates. The vitality of that alien is really tenacious. While fighting, Kaido suddenly remembered the matter of Blackbird, and casually told Whitebird about it. Gilila, thank you very much, but Kaido, your tone seems to indicate that you have me in your hands. Blackbeard is dead, which is also good news for Whitebeard. The pirate who could brutally kill his companions is also a concern for Whitebeard. If he is not dealt with, he will be a disaster after all. But Kaido's tone gave Whitebeard a strange feeling, as if he was afraid that he would not leave with peace of mind, so he deliberately explained the key things. He admitted that Kaido was very strong, but this attitude still made him feel uncomfortable. Your character is not what Roger wants to see. Boom. The fist shattered the scales fired by Kaido, and Whitebeard mentioned Roger again. Unconsciously, he had put the former trainee and the former pirate king on the same level. After Roger returned from Raftel, he had a good chat with Whitebeard and even planned to tell Whitebeard the route to Raftel, but Whitebeard had never been interested in the pirate king, so he rejected Roger's proposal. But he still got a lot of secret information from Roger, and he also had a certain understanding of what Roger expected. That kind of thing doesn't matter at all. I don't need his recognition, and his opinion has nothing to do with me. Kaido faced Whitebeard's fist head on, full of disdain for Whitebeard's words. I don't believe in fate. If fate says something, I must break it. Newgate, you seem to have said before that you are a remnant of the old era, and there is no ship in the new world that can carry you, right? This is the fact. There are not many old guys left. So Newgate, you are old after all. Although your body has regained its youth, your heart has not. If you count it this way, I'm also a person of your generation. Since the era has no ship that can carry it, let the era become the new ship. In the next era, I will be its master. Destined fate. This sentence is something Kaido hates very much. He chose Wano country as his territory, which is also related to this kind of thing. He wants to use facts to prove that the so-called fate is nonsense. In this regard, Kaido has a strong rebellious mentality. Whitebeard's idea of succumbing to time makes him disappointed. Controlling the times and letting the times move forward in his own way is Kaido's current goal. The position of Pirate King is a process, but not the ultimate goal. For Kaido, that position is just a stepping stone. Gilila, I really underestimated your ambition, Kaido. After a moment of silence, Whitebeard felt a sense of unfamiliarity with Kaido. He was too different from the trainee at the beginning. That's right, I'm Whitebeard, Kaido. Let me, the tale of this era, come and send you off. Don't die here, kid. A white halo emerged from Whitebeard's body. This time it was not condensed on his hands, feet, or weapons alone, but enveloped his entire body. Then this power was gradually absorbed by Whitebeard's body, and then disappeared without a trace. But the power of vibration still exists, which can be seen from the land at Whitebeard's feet. The stones at his feet have been shaking, and finally turned into powder in the vibration. The resurrection grass healed the body, but Kaido's words awakened his heart. When the body and heart are rejuvenated at the same time, the real Whitebeard is revealed, and this is exactly what Kaido wants. As an alternative education expert, fighting with him can always yield good results. If Kaido has any natural enemies, then Odin's diary must be one of them. However, Whitebeard's own resistance did not suffer from Odin's poison, or in other words, Odin's silent return to Wano country after Roger completed the voyage also disappointed Whitebeard. The trainee of the year is still ambitious, which makes Whitebeard feel a lot. Hatch's AG and Kusanokiri collided again. This time, the power of the tremor fruit could not be seen on Whitebeard's blade, and only the domineering aura could be seen. But at the moment of the real fight, Kaido felt a vibration force far beyond the past. Unlike the power that Whitebeard had just erupted after awakening, if Whitebeard's previous attack was a terrifying external outbreak, then this time it was a silent internal destruction. At this moment, Whitebeard has transformed into a real shock man. I knew that you, old man, are capable of more than that. It seems that this time we can really enjoy ourselves. Kaido's eyes changed, and the flames surrounding his body also burned like flames. Dragon claws extended from his arms, adding an extra weapon to the 8K. Dragon claws, dragon tails, dragon scales. Most of the dragon type attacks are related to the parts of the body. By using the energy in the body to strengthen a certain part of the body, for dragon type Pokemon, this is their domineering. At this time, Kaido turned the dragon claws into spikes on the 8K. For Kaido, this is the way to apply power. The scales that were fired before were also replenished, and a new round of battle with Whitebird began. Kaido had a great time, and Whitebird also began to enjoy this battle, but the bystanders were not very happy. This is the headquarters of the Navy, a place of justice that cannot be broken in the minds of the Navy. The legend that Impel Down cannot be escaped has long been broken. The Golden Lion's escape can be concealed, but this large-scale jailbreak was seen by the entire Marineford Navy. Although Marineford has been invaded by pirates, the final outcome of those pirates who broke in was arrest and imprisonment, and this incident has not been an exception. This time is different. The two sea emperors are fighting openly at the Navy headquarters, and the Navy's generals are just watching and not taking direct action. This is a heavy blow to the hearts of many Navy officers. From the perspective of the Navy's top brass, this is already the best solution. No matter how Kaido and Whitebird fight, they will not threaten the status of the Navy, and their internal friction will be beneficial to the future development of the Navy. The growing strength of the pirates has put the Navy at a disadvantage at this time. Coupled with the order of the Five Elders, Sengoku will choose to cease fire. Letting them fight without interference is also part of the armistice agreement. It's just that the people below will not understand this kind of thing, especially since the order has not been thoroughly conveyed. Some Navy officers felt that the Navy leaders were waiting for an opportunity to reap the benefits in the end. In fact, if the internal friction among the pirates was more serious, the Navy would indeed do so, but the chance was very small. Except for Kaido and Whitebird, everyone else was very restrained at this time, and they kept their eyes on the other forces of the Navy. Some people also guessed the thoughts of the leaders, but they just kept silent about it. Obedience is the most basic requirement for a soldier. Except for a few thorns, the Navy soldiers who can be recruited here will loyally execute the orders of their superiors. Near the central area, the Navy has stopped their actions, waiting for orders from the top. Most of the pirates also began to flee far away under the order of the captain of Whitebird, but a few people still stayed on the cliff created by Whitebird, watching Whitebird's battle. On the edge of the battlefield far away from Whitebird and Kaido, it was a completely different scene. This war not only did not stop, but intensified. The interruption of Dendenmushi was the signal of a ceasefire, and before receiving this signal, the battle was still going on. The top combat power had been restrained, but the grassroots had not, so in this last time, they were still fighting for the war. In the ruins, the bodies of the Navy and pirates were piled up together. Many people had forgotten the purpose of coming here. Now they only had one last thought, to kill the enemy in front of them. Kobe, what's wrong with you? In a pile of rubble, the room dug Kobe out of it. At the beginning of the war on the top, the two were scared off by Whitebird's destructive power and wanted to sneak away, but they met Akainu who was executing deserters and were finally scared back to the battlefield by Akainu. Enduring the fear in their hearts, they also participated in several insignificant battles, soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. The current level of the two of them can only deal with some ordinary pirates, and any captain from the New World is enough to kill them. In the following time, the battle between Yamato and Kuzan, the clash between Whitebird and the two admirals, the weapons of dynamite rock, and the attacks of the Five Elders and Arceus, the aftermath of each battle was a huge shock to them, and in the final aftermath, the flying stones buried them directly. Under the dual pressure of external force and psychology, the two men fainted directly, and only woke up slowly at this time. Belma woke up later than Kobe, but when he woke up, he saw Kobe covering his ears in pain, and he was sitting on the ground motionless, as if he was scared silly. Facing Belma's shouts, Kobe did not give any response, because he was about to be burst by the voice in his mind. Help. Who will save me? It hurts so much. I don't want to die. I want to go home. Help me. Help me, brother. I will help you revenge. Wait for me. I will come to you. The noisy voice lingered in his mind, and Kobe could not tell whether it was the voice of pirates or navy, and some were just the fear of war. One voice after another disappeared in his mind. Before those voices disappeared, the last groan made Kobe understand that the owner of these voices was dead. Wake up, Kobe, the war is about to end. Marshal Sengoku has ordered a ceasefire. This was the news brought to Belma by the messenger who just passed by. Originally, this order was only conveyed to generals at all levels, but the two of them followed Garp every day and were familiar with the Navy headquarters, so the messenger of Sengoku mentioned it in passing. Continue to attack. Destroy those pirates. Leave them in Marineford. At the same time, a loud voice came into the ears of the two. Belma, didn't you say that a ceasefire was going to be held? That's what the messenger said. Maybe Major General Yukimura hasn't received the order yet. Now Akainu and others are near Whitebird and Kaido and have no time to pay attention to these ordinary battlefields. The deterrent power of these pirates combined is not as good as that of Okada over there. Even Ace has to line up at the back now. For Akainu, Quinn is more attractive than Ace at this time. Ace can say nothing except the title of the son of the Pirate King, but Quinn is different. In terms of the degree of threat, Quinn has the title of the first person under the four emperors. There are many people who are stronger than him in combat, but there is really no second one who is so eye-catching. Compared with the threat of Quinn and others, Koba's existence has nothing to do with Akainu, and there is no chance of collision. He hit his head with both hands, and the voice in his mind gradually disappeared. Kobe stood up again and staggered to Yukimura. Stop it, Major General Yukimura. The headquarters has decided to stop the war. There is no need to let the soldiers make meaningless sacrifices. It hasn't stopped yet. Get out of my way. The little devil who has not even prepared for war awareness comes to point fingers. Look at your rank. You are not qualified to stop me. Yukimura received the order, but he couldn't accept it. Especially the previous inexplicable attack. Although the pirates were also affected, many innocent soldiers were also affected. This was the result of Arceus stopping it. If the attack hit the target, the impact would be even more terrifying. All of this is within the acceptable range for the five elders. If the cost of eliminating Kaido and Whitebird is tens of thousands of soldiers, then they are willing to make this sacrifice. To them, life is just a number, and the threat posed by Whitebird and Kaido is far greater than this number of soldiers. First there was the war, and then there was the aftermath of the unknown attack. Too many comrades and subordinates died in this war because of these. But now they say that if it stops, it must stop. If this is the end, what is the point of so many deaths? He did receive instructions to prepare for a ceasefire, but a ceasefire is only a preparation for a ceasefire, not an immediate ceasefire, so he must seize this last moment to kill more enemies. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.